Hey, onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out this week's episode of the One Man Podcast. It's always free and available on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and many more, as well as on the web at onemanpodcast.com. So please, whatever platform you're listening on, like and subscribe. While you're at it, give it a rating, leave a review. Why? Because it helps the podcast, and I'd really appreciate it. How about that? What about social media? Search One Man Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to keep up with what's going on there. Get a little extra content for yourself. And finally, to get in touch, please send your emails to contact@onemanpodcast.com. You send it, I read it on the podcast. That's the deal. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Demers.
I'm K. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, it's Krista Allen.
Hi, this is Rick Mercier.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 196 for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. How's it going, onesies? How are you guys doing? You guys having a good week so far? You enjoying everything? There's news in my province that we might be able to go back to work soon. That would be nice. Of course, it'll take some time for all of our businesses, mine included, to get going at full stride, but it will be nice for some people to start being able to go back to work and, you know, going out to get maybe a meal at your favorite restaurant or something like that. Who knows? A ton of stuff to talk about this week. Lots of fun things. I'll give you guys an update on the box and how that's going. Got some more items in, got some items fixed, yada, yada, yada. A couple little things I've done admin-wise for the podcast that I'm very excited about. I read a book in 3 days. Not 3 full days. It took me like 3 increments of 2 hours. But I'm going to talk about that and watch some movies. And I've actually got a couple other podcasts that I want to plug this week too. We're going to talk about all that fun stuff, guys. This week, I'm very fortunate to have another co-host, long-time listener, first-time co-host, my pal Izzy. Thanks for doing the podcast. She's just nodding at this point. Are you hot?
Yep. Nope. I'm here.
That's fair. You can point that down if it's more comfortable.
No, it's okay. Having to keep my back up straight is going to keep me awake.
Really?
Yeah.
You look like a social justice warrior, like stiff as a fucking board, ready to fight. I'm just ready to argue with anything. I'm just joking. So we got a few things to talk about. So here's the thing. Earlier in the week, almost like the first thing I did after recording the last podcast, you and I, we try to, hang out every now and again. Not really like during COVID, but when everything was safe, I would say that both of us had very few people in our bubble. And every now and again, we'd find a coffee shop or something like that to hang out, shoot the shit, grab a bite out somewhere. But I think one of the last things that we did, and everything's been very locked down, is you and I both with masks on decided we both need to get groceries at Costco. Is that a safe social distancing activity to just push carts and get our stuff? So we did that. That was kind of fun. But you had suggested, and I just learned, so here's how I'm going to eat my words. I'm going to admit to everybody how wrong I was.
Beautiful.
So Izzy had just suggested, because I had asked her a while back, hey, do you want to co-host a podcast or whatever? I know you guys enjoy it better when I have guests on and things like that. But I figured, all right, do you want to come on and do an episode with me? And then you suggested, well, why don't we so here's the thing. I thought this is probably just me not paying attention, but I thought she had messaged, hey, we should, both read a book that's controversial. You know what? I missed the mark so hard on even the controversy part.
It's okay.
But she was like, we should read a book that's I think her plan was to put me on the spot being absolutely ridiculous and not knowing what I'm talking about. We'd pick a controversial book. She'd understand it. I wouldn't. I'd go off because that's what I do. I'm like, what? I'm going to fight whatever this freaking argument is. Anyways, she had suggested that we get a book or a movie. And all I read was we should get a book that's controversial. She's like, and we'll both read or watch it. Totally missed that. So we were here beforehand and she's like, I suggested a movie or a book. And I'm like, you said book only. Otherwise I would have picked movie. I had to race through this fucking book in the last 3 days. I quite literally spent the first 3 hours of my day today finishing the book before I did anything else. I'm like, I'm not going to get it done. And I'm going to be sitting here like, I almost read all of it. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So we'll save the book till a little later on in the podcast. But I was sitting here adamant that she did not give me a movie option, and she totally did. She was like, we could do a book or a movie.
I was really hoping you were going to say movie because I haven't finished a book since October, at least not for fun. So I was like, I want to say movie, but I want to sound like I could do a book if you wanted to. And you said book. I'm like, oh, Okay.
I only comprehended book from what you offered, which is so funny. I guess just I saw book and controversial, and I was like, I like a controversial, and then I just was like, okay, all right, what book? And then I was like, what? I think you were like, hey, what book? And I was like, I should pick because you'll read it, you'll comprehend it, and I'm going to just sound like an idiot whenever I read it. So at least if I get to pick the subject matter. So the reason Costco is important is we were there and we actually saw a book called The 4% Fix. It's by Karma Brown, and we'll talk about it later on. I won't even give you guys a synopsis now. The reason I picked this is because my partner, Chris, from the Idea Shop, had actually posted about this book a little while back. So when I saw it there, I was like, oh, I've already seen this book, promoted by someone who's got a good taste in that stuff. So why don't we do that? Suggested Iz was very agreeable. Again, now knowing that she was like, fuck a book. But I was like, oh, maybe that'll be good. So yeah, it's called The 4% Fix, How 1 Hour Can Change Your Life. And I was like, well, I got an hour to change this fella's life. So read that this week, and we'll talk about that a little later on. That'll be the headliner of this show, is us doing this book review. I promise I'm not turning the One Man Podcast into a book review club. It's like, really? Because you talk about movies or TV shows you're watching all the time. And like the God forbid a book comes, relax. All right. You want me to review a fucking book, 7 hours of effort. But then you watch like 20 hours of TV. Shut the fuck up.
You can't even blame me. I wanted a movie.
Yeah. Well, and you proved it. So there you go. I was wrong. I was adamant. I was cocksure, as they say, and
Folks,
I was wrong.
Mark the date in your calendar. Josh Williams said, I am wrong.
I say it all the time. You're going to have to listen to more episodes to know that I'm frequently wrong. And I admit it. I'm just never like wrong when I'm confident. That's the part that really fucked me up. Because usually I'll be like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Like I'm usually I'll leave some room for error. Yeah. I was confident that you didn't give me a movie option. I was like, I would have picked a fucking movie. You know how much shit I have to do this week? And another thing too, is you got right on it. Like, she's eating marshmallows out of a bag while we're talking, by the way, and fragmented marshmallows.
They're all stuck together.
Yeah, so she's not reaching into a bag and pulling out a marshmallow. Speaking of which, that's one of my notes about the book. But no, fuck no. No, thanks.
I'm done.
But
sorry.
No, you can eat them all you want. It's just weird that you're just like, and you'll pull out a small, like they're large marshmallows, but she's pulling out small marshmallow pieces of them, the kind you would put in hot chocolate, that size, off of the larger ones. Are they frozen?
No, they're just old.
Ew. Oh God.
Move on.
Things that hard during quarantine. So anyways, yeah, and she got right on board. Like I think you sent me a text like 2 days later, and you've got like a 3/4 of the book read. And you're like basically just like, I'm almost done. That's what it was. That's how I took that. I'm almost done. When do you want to record this podcast? I was like, okay. I thought I had like 6 months to read this book.
No, to be honest, I knew that if I didn't start reading it when I got home, I wouldn't start reading it until like the semester was over or whatever, because I would put it off. And if I don't read big chunks of a book at a time, I get really discouraged. And I'm like, oh God, it'll take forever. Forget it. Can't finish it. But no, I was like, well, I told somebody else I was going to read this, so now I'm accountable.
That's the whole reason that I finished it. I was like, I don't want to disappoint you and be like, look, can we reschedule? I didn't read all the book or whatever it is. So I'm just like, because that's the thing with my codependency. I won't let someone else down. I'll completely disappoint myself if I'm like, I want to read this. It's like, well, fuck you. Oh, okay. But you owe someone else a book reading. I'm like, okay, all right. So I read it. I finished it today. As always, recording on Tuesday. First time I'm recording in the evening in quite some time. Oh, fair. Okay, so here was this. I'm getting a text on my Apple Watch that somebody I know is watching a movie that I'm going to talk about later on in the episode. So as we speak, one of the onesies, just know onesie listener, I won't, whatever, chat, it's you. I got a little shout out that he's watching the movie. So that'll be interesting to, just be interesting to find out what he thinks of it afterwards. Yeah. So, let's see what I got on my list here. We went shopping. We grabbed our books. We've read our book. We're going to tell you guys what we thought about that later on. Thank you. Great suggestion. Cause I don't think that's the first book I read in 3 days.
It was your suggestion.
Suggestion to do something like this.
A movie, you mean?
Yeah. Well, don't say fucking book. Now you know what happens if you say book. It's like when you give someone 2 options, you're like, don't pick the one. Don't pick the fuck. Why did I even suggest that?
Yeah. But you know what? Now that we've done it, I'd probably pick book again. I
Yeah?
actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because it's different, right? You actually are like picking things up as you go, whereas a movie kind of comes at you, whereas you actually actively get into a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I think I read it twice in the mornings, like first thing, and once in the evening. But I believe the evening reading was today was my longest because I had to finish it. Because I don't know how long it took you. It's not a competition.
No,
but
I don't either.
It took me I read it two hours, like 2-hour intervals, and then 1 3 hours. So I read it in 7 hours.
I have no idea. It was over 3 days, but I don't remember how long.
Fair.
At all. Like not even close.
I'm not a rapid reader. I'm a
Me
daydreaming
neither.
reader. Like when I'm reading, I'm daydreaming and I have to go back and read paragraphs all the time because I started thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Pages was the thing I was trying to remember. I knew it would hit me at the wrong time. Something to talk about in the book. And I was like, why is it not talking about it? Why is it not talking about it? I just remember what it's called. Sorry, guys. Addy, betty, boop, boop. I have to like sing these songs to just keep air content going.
I can say something. This is going to be the first time I've tasted Coke in like a very long time. I don't remember the last time I had a Coca-Cola.
They're not a paid sponsor, by the way. Just telling you guys. Yeah. So, and how is it then? Let's give them a plug. I don't know. I just wanted to bring you something for this.
Yeah, no, thanks. It tastes like those little cola bottle gummies. I love those things.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, the cola gummy bottles taste like this, but yeah, no, thank you.
Oh, no worries. I'm not a big pop drinker. I
neither.
found them at like, I don't remember where the fuck I found them. One of the grocery stores in the last
cupboard, and you're like, oh, shit,
no. It was. I think I got 2 6-pack of those for $6. So they were like 50 cents each. And I'm like, you know what? I have a lot of bourbon and whiskey. Like maybe if I want, like it's nice to have around if you want to do like a whiskey and Coke.
Yeah. It just coated my mouth in sugar. Holy moly.
Yeah. Holy moly. Wow. This is a family podcast, everybody. It's also strange looking at you because you usually have glasses.
I know. I can see so much better. It had been 5 years since I last had my eyesight checked.
Yeah. That long?
Yeah.
And so you're using temporary contacts right now?
Yeah, because they have to do a fitting because like eyes have shapes and whatever. And so they did that. They gave me these ones and like the rest of the week for trial contacts before I order them. Mm-hmm. And then, I'll be ordering glasses probably online tonight. I'm very excited. It's like getting a whole new face when you get new frames. It really is.
Well, that's good.
Very
I guess.
exciting.
I'm just saying there's like fitting rooms for your contacts. We have to do a fitting. So we're having a rehearsal evening for my contacts just to make sure that we do the dinner properly.
But they do feel great and I can see so much.
That's good. All right. So I'm going to talk. Did you ever see the show Tales from the Crypt?
No.
Never?
No.
It was an HBO show. Originally, very good. I just blew through like 7 seasons of it in the last couple of months. I talked about when I first started watching it. I used to love that show as a kid. It's like 22 minutes long and it was a horror show. Horror, suspenseful, like a more modern day, like Alfred Hitchcock.
Okay.
Only without the really good storylines. So it was like the show would be, okay. So a small example would be something like, a husband, wants to get his wife's money and he sets this thing up to kill her and blah, blah, blah. But very simplistic storylines. Mm-hmm. The only thing is with Tales from the Crypt, like the bad guy always got his in the end. So like whatever he did to get her, it would come back on him and he would lose in the very last scene shot of the thing would be like, no, like whatever it is. So that was the way Tales from the Crypt went. The innocent person usually got fucked over, but then the bad person would always get theirs. Like they never got off the hook for it. But they would have things from like zombies and ghouls to, it was almost like an M. Night Shyamalan movie where at the end of the episode, there'd always be a twist. And that's usually where the bad guy would get his or whatever it is. But there's often a twist as to what was going on. And as the series, now this was also a show that like whoever was like the who's who of the day was in these shows. So there was like Terry Hatcher, Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Stamos. Like these were early 90s, the Tales from the Crypt show on HBO.
And was it like, did the episodes follow each other or no? Okay.
Self-contained stories like Alfred Hitchcock or whatever.
All right.
Or even Twilight Zone and Outer Limits is a good example of it. Those ones tend to be a little more sci-fi, but this is like monsters, demons. And it was based on a comic book. I think I didn't know that at the time, but it was based on like old horror shorts or whatever it was. Cool. So I liked the beginning. In the beginning, they had all sorts of cool stories. There was there's always I'll give you an example. One of the first episodes, it was a woman who killed her husband, and she's on the phone with her lover, like, hey, I got him. We're going to get the money, whatever it is. And then she has to drag him outside to throw him down the well or whatever. And as she's dragging him outside, front door's open, it's Christmassy and everything. On the radio, there's this thing about an escaped lunatic who's dressed like Santa and he's going to whatever it is. So, the daughter comes downstairs to say goodnight to daddy. And this is right after she buried an axe in his head. Like, daddy, good night. Oh, honey, daddy's really tired. He'll be up later. Go back to bed. Wait, Santa's coming or whatever it is. And then, so she's outside, and this is the vast majority of the episode is this lunatic dressed as Santa trying to get in the house.
Okay.
Right? Like the woman's had all these little, it's almost like not Home Alone, but just this constant attempt, tries to get in this way, tries to get in that way,
And it's like near misses kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Near misses and all sorts of things like that. And then at the very end of the episode, the woman comes running downstairs because she sees him outside on a ladder trying to get up to the daughter's room.
Right.
And she's like, oh my God. She finally gets herself out of a closet because I think she's trapped in a closet and she sees him in the window, like going past her on the ladder up to the daughter's room. So she breaks out, she runs upstairs and the daughter's not there in the room and the window's closed and everything like that. It's like, what the fuck? And then she runs back downstairs and she's like, oh, thank God. She sees her daughter standing at the bottom of the stairs. She's like, mommy, great news. I told you Santa was coming and he didn't even have to come down the chimney. I let him in. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and then she screams and that's the end of the episode. So there was always like that kind of, that was an example of an episode, different stories and shit like that. Anyways, the first ones they were kind of cheesy, but I didn't remember them as being cheesy, but they were still like, yeah, you get it. It's a 22-minute scary kind of whatever it is.
Oh, that's short.
Yeah, like it's just a regular half-hour TV show on HBO. One of the ones that I really liked was one of my favorites. And some of these used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. But there was one, and again, I think this was first season, where it was called The Secret. And there's this little boy who gets adopted by these two like creepy, they just look like they're rich, but it's like just like so cold, standoffish, like what's his face? Alan Parrish's parents in Jumanji.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of, but they're just like stiff, boring, whatever it is, like ugh. Cold people, rich and well-to-do, but cold. Yeah. So this kid gets adopted by them and they're just trying to get him to eat all the time and eat and fat. And he's like, I think they want to eat me and this and that. And like, and you get these ideas that throughout the course of the episode that they're like vampires or something ghoulish nightly.
Yeah.
And this kid, they were alluding to the fact that this kid has been adopted before and people keep bringing him back and he doesn't remember it or anything like that. And he's just like, why am I this way? And he makes friends with the butler. The butler ends up trying to help him out at the end when they're coming to get him. And it turns out they are in fact vampires. And the kid's running through like the woods from the estate, right? He gets out of the mansion, running through the woods. And at the end of the episode, or at the end of the chase, they catch up to him and he's fallen down in a field in the middle of the night or whatever. And he's like, I know now what, I know now what, I know why nobody wanted me. I know why Miss Havisham said that, I have a secret too. And it's like, and you can hear the voices dropping. He's like, and mine is worse than yours. He's like, I'm a werewolf. Yeah. And he's like, and I have an appetite. So like, the turn is that this kid is a werewolf. He turns and kills the vampires. Oh, so, but it was just like creepy. And I remember as a kid watching it, this is early 90s. I think I'm like 11, not even, no. Yeah. It was just like these shows were creepy like that. So it would give you this whole idea what's going to happen. But that was the thing. Like whatever the show started off with, something was going to change. First season, second season, the shows were fun. Again, a little cheesy, over the top, some of the acting, but it was fun stuff. Tia Carrera from Wayne's World, fucking like everybody. And here's the thing. I don't know if you know directors, movies and stuff like that, but Robert Zemeckis, I don't know if you know that name.
Nope.
He is the director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay.
Back to the Future.
Damn.
Forrest Gump.
Okay. All right.
So like, but anything with like visual effects, right? So obviously Who Framed Roger Rabbit had a big cartoon. So that was the first movie that did that. Back to the Future, tons of special effects. So, but he was like one of the executive producers and he directed a bunch of the early stuff too. What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like he's got a really good list of movies on he's also got some shit ones, but, and I think he actually just directed, Welcome to Marwen, the one with Steve Carell with all the little action figures and stuff. You never saw that?
Nope.
again, it's kind of like he's got toys and they come to life and represent his feelings or whatever.
Like,
but again, very visual.
I'm honestly not a movie person.
Really?
You're not gonna get a lot out of me with movies or
fine.
TV shows.
You still can't beat the Jeff Leeson episode. He's never seen movies. Like he doesn't know.
Oh yes, I
he doesn't
remember
know
that episode.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Or you're like Back to the Future. He's like,
You're like, nope.
I've seen Ace Ventura a bunch of times. I'm like, shut the fuck up. But I'm sure you're not that bad. Like,
No,
if I say
not
the
that
classics,
bad. Yes,
you'll
yes.
know the classics.
I'll at least know of them, even if I haven't seen them.
Right. But I'm sure if I mentioned to you like Quentin Tarantino,
Love it.
you know Tarantino
Yes.
movies.
Yes.
Tim Burton. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Is sometimes like, and Robert Zemeckis, that I would say is one that people don't know the name, but as soon as you list his movies, everyone's like, oh shit. And you're like, see, it's like anything visual or cutting edge or whatever new. In fact, there was actually an episode of Tales from the Crypt where there was this character named the Crypt Keeper who basically introduced every episode. You probably, if I showed you a picture, you'd probably go, oh, I've seen that guy before. There's one where it starts off and he's dressed like Forrest Gump and he's like doing the Forrest Gump thing. And I'm going, oh, this episode is going to be directed by Zemeckis.
That's cute.
Because it's his movie. And then what they ended up doing in the episode was it was like a narrative of this guy who was murdered. Mm-hmm. So they're moving his body around and he's got, he looks like Humphrey Bogart.
Oh.
So they've got his face on, but that was because in Forrest Gump, they had all those scenes with like the flashbacks where it would have like John Lennon talking and they basically took the face and then did shit with the face or whatever. So basically just here's a plug to my movie and the big special effect we did in my movie, applying it to this episode of Tales from the Crypt. Anyways,
cute. Very
long thing to say in the Tales from the Crypt that it fell off so fucking hard in the stories. Like I burned through it. A friend of mine who lent me the entire series on DVD is moving out to BC. So it was another thing like this book where he's like, hey buddy, just wondering, I'm moving next month. Are you almost done with things? So I had to get my ass in gear to get him these DVDs back. Tales from the Crypt, unfortunately, this show that like I hadn't seen in like 15 years, because I think it ended in like 95. Hadn't seen it in the longest time. I'm like, 15 years. Yeah, I love that show. It sort of held up in the first couple and it just fell off so hard that I was like, bummer.
Yeah.
Because for years I talked about how good that show was. Have you had anything like that where upon revisiting it just didn't hold up?
Any like Family Channel show where I was like, oh my God, this show was amazing. I could watch this for hours. And they'd always have those marathons where they alternate between two sitcoms.
Oh, really?
They're like, the earliest one I can remember is like between Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob. Yeah, that one. And for like 4 hours, just be back to back alternating episodes of those two cartoons. And I could sit there for 4 hours and just rot my brain. And it was amazing. And then they did them with the Family Channel shows later, like the Hannah Montana, iCarly, like those ones. And same thing. And
did you watch those?
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's so funny because
100%.
Because the kids watched those.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, the show ended in 95. I'm like, dude, I was born in 98.
Yeah, I'm
but
older
yeah,
than you.
no, and then more recently I'd see like little clips or whatever, and I can remember the exact same clip and thinking it was amazing, and it's like, oh God, it's so bad.
It's unfortunate. I watched I probably even said this before, but I watched the Ninja Turtle movies because I was big into Ninja Turtles, and not like the Nickelodeon goofball, like the original cartoon from Toys That Made Us, the shit that they're showing on that cartoon.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was a good cartoon, but then they made the movie, and the movie was dark. Like the first Ninja Turtles movie is very, very dark.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's holds up.
Good.
Holds up. I watched it years later. Holds up. But it was like dark because the comics, Ninja Turtles was also a comic series. And apparently the comic book was very dark. But cartoon was lighthearted. I'm like, oh, what about this thing? And then it was like, holy shit, that was a dark fucking movie, like with murder and shit. And then they made a second one that was like over the top goofy. Watched it. I'm like, this is unwatchable as an adult. Like it's so hokey and hacky. There was only one scene in the entire movie that was actually pretty funny. They're like, what was it? They're trying to infiltrate this thing to get back one of the turtles who's been kidnapped.
Okay.
They get in there like, oh, that was easy. The other guy's like, yeah, a little too easy.
Yeah.
And then they move forward and they're like, it's quiet. And the other one's like, yeah, a little too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the guys is like, look, it's Raph. He goes, yeah, a little too Raph. And I'm like, shut up. Just, that was the all, yeah, but that was the other, was like, that was easy. Yeah, a little too easy. This is quiet, a little too quiet. And then they're like, it's Raph. Yeah, a little too Raph. Shut up.
Oh, well, I remember watching the movie Dirty Dancing for the first time when I was in
slept through it.
grade 8 or whatever. And my mom made like a big deal out of it. It was me and my best friend from grade 8 and we were in the basement and we're all watching this movie. And then we get to the end and I'm like, what, where was the Dirty Dancing? And my mom's like, oh no, you couldn't dance like that. I'm like what? Like it didn't even
I thought there was going to be straight fucking in this movie.
Well, like, there were no like hands under clothes or anything. It was literally like it was so funny. And I get it now that I'm like older and I understand cultural context and that kind of stuff. But like when I watched it for
implied Dirty Dancing, was that what it was?
I
slept through it.
Like there's their bodies like touch like that. And they move together pretty much. Yeah, it's like, and it's so funny because it's all taboo and like nobody used to dance that close together. And it's like they do the thing.
This movie came out in the 80s, did it not?
I think so.
Hey Siri, what year did Dirty Dancing come out?
Which one?
Fuck.
I found
4?
Dancing.
4?
Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights.
Havana Nights. Yeah, I love how like. Okay, I get it. There's 2 Dirty Dancings that
Thanks,
came
Siri.
out. So it looked like 86 because I just clicked on her to shut her up and
But it was so funny because at the time I was like, what's so dirty about this? I don't get it. And my mom's like, yeah, okay, I guess it didn't hold up. Like the taboo part of it. It's still like a really fun movie because, Patrick Swayze's all Patrick Swayze and whatever. And it's like beautiful, but it's like, it's not, it doesn't quite have that taboo like ooh-ness to it.
I tried watching, and here's the thing, there's certain movies that when you grow up watching them, they'll always have a special place in your heart.
For sure.
And sometimes you're just late to the party on them. Like, here's the thing, I've never seen Grease. I know all the songs from it because they're just played everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever going to be a part of me that's going to go, I gotta see it. It's too classic to see it. Or to not see it.
I don't like rewatching Grease.
No?
I love it, but I love like that I used to love it. You know what I mean? Like that's another one. I guess it just doesn't hold up. I always hear you say like things should have been Me Too'd. Like you use it as a verb.
Okay. Oh, was that movie full of fucking?
Oh my god! It's
what do you mean as a verb? Don't you fucking talk English to me?
It's so bad. Like the moral of the story is if somebody doesn't like you, change who you are.
Oh, really?
That's literally because so there's like in broad strokes, there's the nice girl who's like good at school and like the bad boy who's all rough and tough. And at the end of the movie, they both show up to the carnival with like swap where she's in like the tight leather pants. I'm sure you've seen like those.
I think so.
Yeah. So
and then he punches Biff and then he gets the car meets Doc and they get hit by lightning.
He shows up in like a nerdy sweater and whatever. And they both are just like, oh yeah, I like you better this way. This is good. And it's like, well, if you had just both stayed, what? Anyway.
And then I guess Travolta's like a character actor, right? Because he dressed, fuck him. This is going to be a long walk for that punchline. It's just like, he changed who he was. Like he got neutered basically.
Not like he was still top dog, but he was like
neutered. He's top dog, but neutered. They took his balls, and that's why Travolta's sexuality was questionable ever since. I'm getting big eye rolls over here.
I keep forgetting. People can't see my facial expressions.
No, I'll let them know that you disapprove of what I'm saying.
Just assume
I'm only saying it to add
a
little bit of polarization to this podcast. Because for a long time, I'm like, I'm afraid of everything I say. You know what? Fuck it. If you can't tell I'm joking, I think I would almost go as far to say that you deserve to be offended. If you tuned into a comedy podcast, heard comedy and went, what? Comedy? I didn't show up for this. That's on you, right? I think there's a little bit of personal accountability.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I'm not serious because again, everyone who knows me knows like I don't give a fuck.
Well, it's like being friends with you. Like, oh.
Yeah.
I didn't see this coming. Well, yeah, you did.
I'm almost like I could sit around and just be calm and just be part of the conversation. But every now and again, I'm like, let's just remind us that it's not super serious. Whatever it is, life isn't. We all die at the end. Spoiler alert. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. I was surprised too when I found out yesterday. But yeah, all right. So I finished Tales from the Crypt. I was excited when I started watching it. I told the onesies about it, but I got to say, it's not worth the walk through it. The last season was all filmed in like Britain. And this would have been Britain? Fuck Britain. No, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, it didn't make sense. I was asking Nick, who's like an encyclopedia of horror and movies and pop culture and stuff like that. And, he was like, yeah, it's something to do with like they stopped filming in Los Angeles. They went to the UK. And so all the episodes in the last season are all, they're all very gothic castles and mansions and Agatha Christie, like, but not Agatha Christie type stuff. It's just like, it's all in mansions and well, you'd like to inherit our fortune, would you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just, yeah. So it had this theme, but it was funny because there was an episode with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And super young, Ewan McGregor, Steve Coogan or Cooligan or whatever. You probably recognize him if I showed you. Daniel Craig. So James Bond, stupid young, still stupid haircut, stupid face, pursing his lips for no reason.
Whatever.
If you listened to recent episodes, I was shitting on Bond recently. But yeah,
I think that's why you said the Me Too thing.
Oh, Bond should have been Me Too'd 1,000 times.
There it is.
Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. But
like, he'll be like, nice to meet you, Bond. We're here on a mission. She's literally like, yo, we're working. And he's like, I don't care. Pushes her against the wall, starts making out with her. I'm like, this is not okay. And I almost want to call bullshit. I'm like, women, are you still that infatuated with James Bond that you're not willing to call Me Too on his ass? Well, yeah, but he's wearing a tuxedo. I mean, come on. If you're wearing a tux, then it's not rape. That's how it feels. I'm like, why has James Bond, like Scarlett Johansson got in shit for portraying or for the what was the intent to portray somebody in the LGBT community, and then she had to stop doing it because she's not. And there's been so many comics that are like, yeah, it's called acting.
Yeah.
If you're just what you are, it's not acting. You're like, I just showed up and I said words someone else wrote on paper.
I was going to say, if you have to hire somebody who is exactly the thing that you're hiring for, that their acting quality is going to go down real fast. You want to hire bankers to play bankers?
Yeah. Oh, well, like, and like Bill Burr said in his last special, he's like, oh, that guy's not a murderer. Why is he playing a murderer? And that guy was dead. But I saw him in another movie alive. Like it's that level of like chasing the ridiculousness. So that's where I just come at it. It's like, look, I do
get though to a certain
tell it controversial. We didn't read a controversial book. We'll do this.
No,
instead.
Strangely, this actually will be playing like no, it's still the kind side of things. But anyways, I forget her name, but she I think she had cerebral palsy or something, and she's a comedian, and she was saying that she was auditioning for movies and stuff, but obviously like it was tough because she can hide her disability for like bits at a time where you can't quite tell, and she said there was a Broadway production where the lead character had cerebral palsy. She's like, oh my God, this is it. I've got it. And she didn't get it. And she was told, it's like, well, you won't be able to do the things that we need the character to do. She's like, well, if I can't do them, your character can't do them. So
yeah, I guess.
And it's like, you don't just heal from cerebral palsy. And it's like,
but you can get different kinds. Like some could affect your legs, some could affect your arms.
But she was very high functioning. And that's the thing. She's like, if this character has any degree of this thing, then they can't do things that I can do. Like she said, she has like very minimal symptoms. She's like, for the character to have any of them, she could do it. Like,
she could play. Okay, what you're saying is she could ham up what it was. So she was high functioning. So if they're like, well, your legs work and the character's legs don't, like, are you saying like that kind of as
exactly.
an example?
So the character
she could pretend the character's legs. Yeah,
exactly. The character would have to be either equal or worse off than her if they're going to have it at all.
I was thinking like, for example, like she would have like devil's advocate. It's like, it's a Broadway musical and the character has like cerebral palsy in her arms.
Sure.
And but she can tap dance, right? And that's what they need. But she shows up, she's got it in her legs, and she's like, well, they're like, yeah, it's not the same sort. Well, you know, that's all I was thinking is that kind of thing. You're like, well, you can't tap dance there, Tammy. We need that, you know?
No, it's like she was saying basically there's no way that they're properly representing this character if I can't do what this person.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like saying, no, we're just going to get Bryan Cranston to do it instead.
Yeah,
it's like,
much.
Oh, okay. So someone more able-bodied to play a lesser able-bodied.
Yes. Anyways.
Cancel me, guys.
Actors
I'm tired of
don't
doing
need
this.
to be the things they are acting.
No, it's, well, okay. I wish I could, for the life of me, remember where I heard this. It was something televised, either a documentary or like a TED Talk, but it's going to bother me, but whatever. I'll add it on a later episode, guys, when I remember what it was. But it was just a small talk about someone saying how like there's actually pleasure zones in the brain that people get from criticizing and canceling things. Like it was something about cancel culture, and it's like people that like they do it as a pleasurable thing. They're not, I like to correct things or whatever it is. Again, I go back to like a quote that I like a lot, which is those that can't control their emotions want to control other people's behavior. So I don't like this, so you don't do it. And that's
there's
not
also
right.
a lot of people get a sense of superiority when they correct people. They're like, oh, this is the new politically correct thing. Therefore, I'm better than you for knowing that. And I'm going to tell the world, not just you, because
that thing I learned yesterday.
Yeah,
people
rarely correct people in like DMs or like emails, because apparently everybody's got to send you emails now.
I want emails, fuckers. Correct me. This is the only time you get a pass on correcting me is if it's in an email to contact@onemanpodcast.com. How dare you? I'm going to kill your mic right now.
But no, like people rarely correct people individually. They're like, big social media platform, in the comments, everything. No, this is why you're evil. And it's like, well, if you were actually like wanting them to change the way they speak or to change their opinion on something, you're much more likely to get them to do that if you don't call them out publicly.
Yeah, I've been, not only that, it's just that like there's a psychology to being corrected. I talked about this on an episode a while back about the whole, like, am I too loud?
We're both too loud in my ears right
Oh,
now.
really?
Sorry.
I can turn you down. That's okay.
Thank you.
You got those little mouse eardrums. Is that better?
No.
What? How about now? Better?
Yes,
Better?
thank
can
you.
Live?
Okay, beautiful.
High maintenance. Everybody.
Sorry.
I'm kidding. I'm
I
just
don't
joking.
want to
No,
be
it's fine.
dead.
I just didn't know what your pointing down was. You're like, bring it down. I'm like, what? My energy? My anger? What do you want?
You suck.
You're allowed to be like, it's too loud. Again, we edit nothing. Now we've got like 5 minutes of me going, what do you want? What the fuck? I brought this up back in, I don't remember what episode. It might have been during the holidays, but I was talking about how like when people say like, when I would say to people like, oh, hey, Merry Christmas. And they would be like, oh, you're supposed to say Happy Holidays. And I was immediately like, oh, like taken aback. And it wasn't, because I even said it's so funny that I'm like, well, it's not a big deal. Like, I'm just wishing you like kindness, like whatever it is. And I even said like, I'm atheist who wishes he was agnostic, basically. And I'm like, so it's funny because with Merry Christmas, I don't have a dog in the fight anyways.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I talked about. So I'm like, I never had a dog in the fight, but my knee-jerk reaction to saying, hey, Merry Christmas, like, you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say Happy Holidays, was like an internal, like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And not because they had something to, it was this whole being corrected, as opposed to like, let's look at intent versus what actually happened. The intent was kindness. Do you know what I mean? And so later on, I was like, yeah, I have no dog in the fight, so I have no problem adjusting to Happy Holidays. And I go, it's almost like my handshake pre-COVID policy was like, I hate it when you like go to shake someone's hand and then they offer you the fist bump. You know what I mean? I don't like that.
Awkwardly or on purpose?
No, just like you go like this and they offer you something different.
Yeah.
And so I was even saying my policy is whatever you offer, I will reciprocate.
Yeah. And with the Happy Holidays, I think a way to kind of correct somebody without correcting them would just be to wish them happy holidays in return. So if for instance, I don't celebrate Christmas, and you were to say to me, oh, Merry Christmas, I said happy holidays. Yeah. You're not going to be like, well, fuck you for saying happy holidays to me.
Yeah.
Because we're both of our intent is just well wishes. Right. I'm not saying don't tell me that, but I am making it clear by wishing you happy holidays that that's probably what I would prefer to receive.
Yeah. And even, I'll be honest, even that would say irk me, but not, I wouldn't take anything negative from it. Only because it's different.
Well, you'd probably not be any more irked than the person you just said Merry Christmas to, who doesn't want to hear that, right?
Right. No, but I'm saying that they corrected me. You can't say that. As opposed to, like, I'm saying with you saying, if I say Merry Christmas, you go Happy Holidays.
Yeah.
I'm not
okay,
upset.
yeah.
I'm not upset. But part of me is like, I'll notice that you said a different one.
Well, that's the point.
That's all I'm saying. It's just
that would be
noticing.
the point of saying something different, would be to make you notice, but also to not be that jerk who's gonna like purposely misread your intent. And
right.
Be like, you're a dick.
And here's the thing. I've already switched to Happy Holidays personally.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I said, I don't like it. It's funny because I was like, I didn't like it. I know I didn't like it. But a lot of people think, oh, I don't like it because I celebrate Christmas. Nothing wrong with Christmas. People war on Christmas. It's not about that.
No.
In my opinion. Right. And you know me well enough to know that, like, I'm not going to just fucking roll over and do what society tells me to do. I will listen to it and I'll evaluate it and I'll apply my own morals and ethics to it. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm like, I don't have a dog in a fight with Christmas, and there are other holidays.
Yep.
So to say Happy Holidays doesn't exclude Christmas. All it does is include other people.
It's literally,
and you can't accidentally say it. Like I've said Merry Christmas to Jewish people in my life. Accidentally. It wasn't like, oh, they're Jewish, but they're like, oh, and you know what? They just said Merry Christmas back. I'm not saying, hey, fuck Jews, you enabled me. All right. No, I'm kidding.
No, I think with this one, it's crazy. Like there's so many things where there are a million different options of words you can use, and it changes very often. And it's okay not to constantly be educated, and it's important to always be trying to be educated. But
why aren't you making eye contact right now?
Oh, because I was looking at my terrible drawings
just
on
like,
the board behind
I'm like,
you.
does she believe in this? She can't make eye contact.
No,
I'm
but the Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays thing, I can't get over it. It's like Merry Christmas excludes everybody except Christians.
Yeah, Christians are the worst. Are you
and
Christian?
on paper, I think.
What do you mean on paper? You got your Christian license?
Kind
Is that
of
a thing?
I have like the communion and the confirmation and all that garbage. On paper, I think I'm Christian, Catholic.
How do you on paper? A lot of people are not what they identify as now. If we want to get wicked fucking controversial, which one do you give more stock into? What you identify as, or what's on your paper? What are you? What do you call you? Are you Christian?
Oh God, no.
What are you, agnostic, atheist? You're not releasing a book.
No, I honestly think I'm in the same boat as you. I like the way you word it. You're like
atheist who wishes he was agnostic.
Yeah. Agnostic. Because there's the world's too complex for there to be absolutely nothing.
But I haven't seen anything that makes me subscribe.
No.
I say, if anything, I identify more as like Buddhist and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the philosophies more than the
they don't have a guy.
No.
There's no like, you got to worship this guy. A lot of people are Buddha. But no, Buddha was a teacher. He wasn't, they're not like worship him. They were like, he had teachings. That's it. And I love the fact that they're the only religions that actually are kind of scientifically proven. Like I've said it before.
Because like meditation is helpful. And,
Well, they said for years, and I've said this recently, you guys will hear it again because I chatted with Verzi about it, but they were the only ones that said, we all come and go from the same energy. To hurt someone else, to hurt yourself, because we're all part of the same thing. And then years later, science comes along and says energy can neither be created nor destroyed, merely change forms. Like, so you're almost like, well, they've been saying that forever, and they didn't do it based on science. They literally just said, we come in. So I'm like, these motherfuckers who aren't telling you, yo, do what this motherfucker says, or you're going to Buddhist hell.
Stuff figured out.
It's now all religions have, oh Jesus, now we're talking religion here. But I'm saying all religions have that good stuff, treat other people. All religions have some version of treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yep.
Which is the best lesson to take from all of them.
Yep.
But I just like, for me, it's like, they're not telling you what to do. They're not telling you about magical fairylands. Like all of the Eastern religions are about making the world we live in now the best it can be. Not like, hey, if you're good now, the sequel or whatever happens next. Anyways, the point with the Merry Christmas thing was that the psychology of like wishing someone a kindness, like, hey, Merry Christmas. Actually, you're supposed to say Happy Holidays. As much as your intent was kindness, like the psychology is when people feel attacked, they attack back. Mm-hmm. So when you say Merry Christmas, someone goes, Happy Holidays. There's that feeling of like, I was attacked. I'm being corrected.
Well, it depends how you say it. If I say, Happy Holidays, it's very different than Happy Holidays.
But even if what you say, Happy Holiday, if you say Happy Holidays back to Merry Christmas, there's no attack there.
No.
I said mine, you said yours. Like I said, I take note that yours was different.
Yep.
but I don't feel attacked. But if I say Merry Christmas, you go, actually, you're supposed to say, now you're correcting me, which is what happens all the time. You can't say that anymore. You're supposed to say like, so it's almost like a quote that I heard recently that I've been using daily in conversation is a lesson forced is not a lesson learned. Yeah. And that's what it feels like to a lot of people. So now they're not like, that's the thing. You can't have a conversation when you try to force knowledge on people. You know what I mean? It's like, cause I'm not even listening to you. Like I said, I didn't even have a dog in the fight. I'm not Christian.
Yeah.
But I said something, I was trying to be nice and I got theoretical attacked. Yeah. I got aggression back. And that might not even been how they meant it, but it's like, now I'm being corrected. So it's like, how do you correct kindness? Do you know what I mean? Like, so immediately my back goes, like I said, I learned time, like it didn't take long. And I'm like, yeah, there's other holidays or whatever. But that's kind of like, that's an example of when people feel attacked, they attack back. So we were talking, I don't even remember what the original subject was about people, sharing a message and trying to convey something. I remember we were talking, not the Me Too thing. I don't think it was Me Too related. But my point is that anytime someone's trying to share information with somebody else and be like, well, here's a way to look at things, like, you don't go at it aggressively. I think it was making fun of social justice warrior. Who knows? I'm making fun of all the jerk asses, but the idea is that all these people who are yelling at somebody, yo, you're supposed to, that message is never going to get heard, because as soon as you make somebody feel like they're attacked, they're going to attack back. That's where all the fighting and shit comes from. For sure. I've been writing a lot of bits lately, like chunks about just politics and religion. And I got a good one on Netflix coming up. But yeah, this is just like the top. I don't know. I've always just been like, look, if you want me to know something, I'm happy to listen. Right. Let me ask you this and the reason I have you on is because you're a good friend, but I also feel like you're first off, you're young and you're still kind of in the close to, you're still in school? Yeah. Yeah. So you're still around the bubble of all these people who kind of know everything because they're learning about it right now. They've got like the freshest take on it.
And I still have like a smidge of faith in humanity.
No, well, I still do. I do too. But here's the thing. This is not on you because like I said, I gravitate towards people who are reasonable. I like people who devil's advocate and are open-minded. But again, don't just roll over because today my professor said this and now we all know it and we're smart. Yeah. There's a lot of horse shit in school too. For sure. But you're around the people who are like, we know best with no life experience. Right. Like, why is there wars, man? It's like, live a little and you're like, corporate interests and stuff. Oh, I just thought it was because we didn't know any better at the top. Like, So the big thing of everyone's like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, this and that. I don't know. I personally, I'm like, there's a big thing that I don't understand. I don't know that I'm right, but I do feel strong in my conviction about it, is there's a lot of this whole, it is not so-and-so's job to educate blank. And I will certainly say, and I think I might have even said it before in the podcast, but it's polarizing. I have said recently, I'm like, I will not say it's your job to educate me on something. Sure, I will agree to that. But don't expect me to know it then. If you don't want to be part of the solution, like, let's put it this way. If it's nobody's job to educate anybody, how are people supposed to learn? They're like, well, go educate yourself. Well, guess what? That information is coming from someone else who's sharing the education. So if the position is that, well, it's not my job to educate, that's fine. But you are the one who yelled at me for not doing it. So you want to be able to yell at me, but you don't want to help be part of the solution. I find that confusing. I'm not saying my position is right, but where I'm sitting at, I'm like, I want to learn. You want me to know, but you don't want to be part of that process. That's odd to me.
So I guess my take on that, we'll use an example that's very like broad and that you and
canceled.
I can
You're
both...
canceled right now. Canceled.
You and I can both relate to. So let's just say like feminist issues. I am woman.
I almost spit out my fucking drink. No, go ahead.
Sorry, I should say it in French and they'll get all,
ew, gross. Sorry.
Okay, so I think part of the problem with any group, so whether it's women, visible minorities, LGBTQ+, blah, 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 anything, is that the big part of the struggle is that nobody knows anything, but then constantly being asked about it is also part of the problem. Right. So let's just say, I don't know, I am frustrated because I saw a good little like comic strip the other day. Actually, it was about the mental load. So
That sounds like a porn
I
shot.
I don't know why my brain
the mental
also,
load.
Yeah, my brain
I'm gonna
also
bust a brain nut right now. Take my mental load. That's what this podcast is, guys. Me busting my mental.
Sapiosexuals and the mental.
Is that it? Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that.
Sapiosexual.
Sapiosexuals.
It's like you're attracted to a person's like mind and intelligence.
Oh, that sounds like a fucking line if I've ever heard. Oh, baby, it's not your body, it's your fucking.
I'm a sapiosexual. Oh, you're ugly. Okay.
It took me a long time to come up with that word.
Anyways, so the mental load is like the constant list and organization and everything of the daily life. So let's say between a heterosexual couple where the man just assumes that he'll be asked if there's something that she needs done. So the example is, and actually, I had to clear this table when we got here because it was an absolute mess.
Did I fuck up?
No.
I'm like, I'm part of this example? I'm already guilty? What did I do?
No. But in normal times, if I like lived here and stuff, and I was like, okay, today I have to clear the table. So I would grab a mug that's on the counter or on the table, and go to put it in the dishwasher. But I'd realize the dishwasher is clean and needs to be put away. So I would do that. And then I would put the mug in the dishwasher. And then I would come back and I would grab the book that's on the table. And I would walk towards the bookshelf and realize that the floor is really dusty. So I would sweep up that corner of the floor where, I don't know, there's ashes from the fireplace. And then I would put the book on the shelf.
So one task leads to another
all
kind
of those
thing?
things. Blah, blah, blah. But if you asked the male counterpart, generally, the only thing that would happen is that the things from the table would no longer be on the table. So the rest of all of those things still need to
our
get
goal
done.
would be clear the table. Your goal is well, I'm seeing other tasks that also need to be accomplished.
Yeah, and then when let's say it was a text message where it's like, hey, can you clear the table? It's like, yeah. And then when I get home, there's a mug in the sink.
Okay.
There's new foot tracks from the ashes that were on the floor that are now in the middle of the living room. And I don't know, the freezer door won't shut because you just put the thing back in the freezer and it wouldn't shut. So whatever. So you didn't reorganize.
Attentiveness to the issues.
The lack of the overall awareness of the tasks that it requires to maintain a household is that mental load that's just not there. So you're not constantly thinking of all of the things. And then if I get home and I say, well, can you do the dishwasher? Can you sweep the floor? And can you rearrange the freezer? Oh, well, you should have asked. It's like, you should have known. And it's like,
so we're talking expectations then.
We're talking just a general
not to
awareness.
say one's right or wrong, but realistically, if because we do have different values, not even male, female, just in general,
People.
we all have different values. So that's something I find interesting too. Like I read a lot of psychology stuff and I have no preconceived notion that I'm somehow right about anything, but just some things make sense to me, some don't. And to me, I'm like, I look at it because what you're thinking is fair. I too have expectations. So sometimes I see, because I have roommates that are incredibly inconsiderate and insensitive to things. And I look at it and go, I don't even understand how it's fathomable that they can't see it. But at the same time, any psychologist will tell you, if you want somebody to do something, you got to ask them. At no point in any psychology or relationship book I've ever read does it say people should know. However, caveat, if you have asked them previously not to do it and they continue to do it, you shouldn't have to ask every time. That's not the argument.
Sure.
But there's no books on psychology that will say people should just know.
No, but assuming you live with this person, they've seen you do these things.
It's an expectation. You're right.
You should have them. You should be able and be allowed to have expectations.
No.
Absolutely.
You can have them. You are definitely entitled to them. The results of those expectations may be very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. I totally believe that there should be just like it's like that whole common sense thing, right? But like, what's the joke? Oh, common sense isn't all that common. No. But that's the thing. Common sense is all about our expectations of others. And then the actuality is incredibly frustrating. Yeah. Like saying please and thank you. I can't imagine living my life without doing that.
Yep.
The amount of people I see not doing it blows my fucking mind.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing. It's not even like time. I'm not saying you got to recite a soliloquy to everybody.
No.
But even just holding a door, when you walk through the door and you do that thing where you just kind of give it an extra tap to push it open for the next person.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, costs you nothing. Don't even, they're not even things, but it's just that someone's behind you, you know I'm behind you,
Yep.
to just do it. But someone will open the door and just drop it right in your face. Like, just, no, I got through. Little things like that. So, but I'm saying that even that, like, that's an expectation of mine. They have no duty to do that.
Okay, but
And I'm disappointed by it, and it bothers me. And because I know how ingrained in me that is. So for me, it's like, I don't even go through the door and consider that. That's just what I do.
So back to your original point with it's not people's job to educate. Do you not think that people kind of have a social responsibility to just push a door open? In our society, in Canadian society, it is a known thing that you can hold doors, people. You can say please and thank you.
Spend a day in Toronto. That'll change that expectation of yours real quick.
But in general, there are things that are kind of just socially important and known. And so those expectations...
You're making a very good point. But
it's the social responsibility of the awareness of the problems of these groups, to get back to your original point.
Okay. Sorry. I thought you were going to say, like, people should just know. And I was like,
Nope.
What if someone shows up and goes, what should I do? And you go, I'm not, if you don't know, that's not my job to tell you. You go figure it out for yourself.
Well,
and I'm like, but at
I-
the same time, I'm walking around society wondering why no one's doing it.
Yes.
That's the part where I go, like, I get it. Because you made a very good point, which I can't say I considered, but the second you said it, I'm like, absolutely. Where you're like, when people are answering questions all the fucking time, like I get the frustration of like I said, I agree. It is not my job to educate you. And the thing is, some people are like, it's like almost any conversation about anything. Some people aren't asking so they can learn. They're asking so they can argue with you.
They're asking so they can argue. They're asking as a way to point out that you're different, or they're asking as a way to make sure you know that they know that you're different. Like, just think like...
There's fuckers in everything.
Yes. So I think I just asked. No. Usually when people say, well, I asked and I didn't get an answer, rarely are
I'm
people...
not even on board with that.
Like, rarely are people actually offended or angry when you ask the right questions, and when you're genuinely trying to understand, when you're going to listen to the answer you're given. So I think a big part of that whole, like, it's not my job to educate you, defense comes from stupid, wrong, ignorant, mean questions.
I would definitely agree with that. I talk to so many people about so many subjects. The amount of times I say in this podcast, I don't know if I talked about it in the podcast. It's almost like my caveat, like I'm sorry if I did, but it has value in this conversation. Is I remember, and I don't even know if this person was right, because that's another thing I found in a lot of discussions is someone will share information with you and then you later find out that it's close or kind of off or just flat out wrong. But it's different. It made more sense. Is I've had people who I ask, and it's just like, it's not my job to tell you. I'm like, yeah, but you just yelled at the other dude in the room. You know what I mean? For not knowing. Because my big thing is that, like, if a group of people are feeling misunderstood, that's a really fair reason to feel afraid, to feel worried that nothing's going to be accepted. And I get that, right? Through what we all know is that we fear that which we don't understand. And through understanding comes peace. So my thoughts are, and again, I definitely recognize my privilege, which is another thing I learned in time. Privilege doesn't mean that I have everything handed to me. It means I have certain advantages. And I was going to say, I don't even think it should be called white privilege. It should be called white advantage, because privileges can be taken away. You can't just wake up one day and it's like, I'm not white anymore. You know what I mean? All of a sudden the world's not going to treat me like I'm white.
Well, okay.
Does that make more sense? Right? Privileges be taken away. I let you walk home from school. That's a privilege. Come right home or I'm taking it away.
No, I think it should be called privilege because it should be taken away. And it can be with more and more years of...
Well, I'm going to be standing up to whoever's trying to take my privilege. God,
no, it should be taken away because it shouldn't be a thing.
I agree.
It should not be an innate advantage, and that's why it's a privilege.
Yeah, well, I'm an egalitarian. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's just, you're a language person too. Like I said, to me, I look at privilege like it be taken away.
It should
Your
be.
allowance is a privilege. It can be taken away.
Yes,
but
your white privilege can be taken away and should be taken away.
I think it's an advantage that can be taken away because it's not, you can't take away one white person's privilege and not another. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the whole fact that you're white is it's called privilege, but I'm saying it's an advantage. It's and I'm not saying that like I'm better. I don't mean that, but I'm saying that the truest excuse or truest meaning of the word is it's more of an advantage than a privilege. In fact, just for fun, I don't know if we have enough time because of how fast I'll be able to do this. Hey Siri, what's the definition of privilege?
As a noun, it means a special right, advantage, or immunity.
Okay, so there. Okay, well, I'll concede that. I'll concede that because literally advantage. Go fuck yourself, Siri. I'm white.
Hey, you asked her. She was answering.
She's
you
a
need to
woman.
listen.
I have white male privilege. Okay.
Listen to the answers when you ask the questions, Josh.
She's got a white voice, and it's Black History Month. I am not taking her. I'm just joking. No, but she proved your point. So okay, there we go. I will totally concede privilege is absolutely fine because advantage is right in there. So that works for me. Yeah. All right. I was right. No, okay, fair. But all I mean is that like, it sucks that first off, it bothers me whenever anyone gets treated as lesser. That sucks.
Yep.
I'm a big advocate for like, and first off, the amount of people I've met in my life who man, there's so many different things that I want to address. Like I'm the kind of guy who like, when I heard about the Me Too movement, to me, it was ridiculous, not in the sense that like what they went through was like, I didn't not believe them. I was fucking blown away by how many women had stories like this.
Yeah.
Because I'm a good dude. And I've got so many women in my life that I look at as strong and everything. So the idea that a woman is any lesser than a man to me is foreign. I don't walk around calling myself a feminist. I'm an egalitarian. Feminism is part of that.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So, but to listen like all these like treated so horrible. Like, so to me, it was like insane. It was like you told me aliens lived on the planet. I'm not saying that I couldn't believe the stories. I was just blown away at the sheer numbers.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to process that. Like, again, so not to not believe, because I did believe it.
Right.
I was just like, wow. To the point where I started asking women that I was close with, like, did anything happen to you? Like, are you okay? Is there anything that you want to get off your chest? Because I'll believe you. What I understand is that no one believes you. I'll believe you.
Right.
You know, I don't even know if that's okay to do, but I was just like, if that's what you need, then I can do that.
Yep.
And like I said, but then at the same time, I was hearing all men are shithead, all men are rape apologists. And so again, it goes back to that psychology. When people feel attacked, they attack back.
Except the women actually were attacked.
No. What I mean is like all men are bad. So I'm like, what I'm hearing is the message: all men are bad. I'm not a bad guy, right? So I'm not saying I changed from my allied position, but it almost put up a mental block for me right away because I'm like, you just told me I'm bad. I haven't done anything wrong. Right. Do you know what I mean? And the arguments are always like, oh, but we're not talking about you. I'm part of all men. When you say all men, I'm part of all men. So
yeah, I heard a really good phrasing to kind of counter that recently. It was not all men are bad, but enough men are bad that we have to fear all men. So
that's reasonable. I won't disagree with that.
So the shorter way of saying that in a tweet or whatever is like, men are bad. And it's a generalization. And honestly, like, generalizations like that, I don't think should be taken to always mean all, whoever, like, unless the word all is actually in that tweet or whatever it is, don't take it to mean that. It's a generalization, you know, like, I've
learned to back it off. Like I said, it didn't even change me. It didn't even change my position as an ally.
No, but I can see that it's like, hey, you know, it's like the first time, you know, like, Black people are saying, you know, white people suck.
Okay.
And it's relax. Like, ouch. But eventually I did come to realize sometimes I did suck.
Yeah.
Like
we all do. We all do. We're all learning and we're all growing. My position with that was, like I said, it was like the Merry Christmas thing, right? Is if it starts with I'm being corrected and I haven't even done anything wrong, or I feel attacked, like it's the psychology. And that's why I see a lot of people, like, their message shouldn't be, hey, fuck you. You're like, I get where your fear comes from. Your fear is merited. Like you said, enough guys have done it that we should fear all men. I don't disagree with that. And that was the part of saying, like, I was talking to women and they were saying, oh yeah, whenever I'm in a room with a guy, I know, like, where's the door? Where's my phone? And I'm like, wow. And we want to talk privilege as a man. Unless I'm in a room full of like fucking, you know, scuzzy dudes and I don't know any of them because I'm with my buddy and my buddy's gone upstairs to buy whatever drugs or whatever. We're also talking like when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and they have to give you many reasons to be afraid.
I will say this, maybe this is just me, but I was just like, I just don't know any of you people and there's an illegal activity happening. So, you know, that was but I don't know. Many,
illegal activity
but
is
that's
a
one
reason.
reason, not many reasons. I figured you were probably like, they have to already have their cocks out and holding you against the wall.
No,
I'm like,
no,
by then
no.
I'm allowed to be afraid.
No, like anything like that. But
Yeah.
in general, like any woman I know, if she's just in a room full of men, even if she knows some of them, even if she knows all of them, there's just an extra level of awareness that comes with that.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing is, like I said, like hearing that, I'm like, I understand it. Now, if the friend that I asked told me that, like, 'cause again, now I'm in a better way of knowing, like, oh, if I ever end up with someone I don't know in a situation like that, I don't even know. I truly don't even know how to make them more comfortable.
Right.
Do I address it and say, look, if you're worried, what would make you more comfortable in this
No.
situation? Like, am I just like letting her know that I'm fully aware and maybe he's got the fucking the joint figured out? Like,
If it's just you and her, never do that.
but that's what I'm saying. So like,
That'd be terrifying.
Would it?
Oh my God.
Really?
Yes.
I can imagine that it would be, but I guess I still don't understand why. Because I'm like, listen, thanks for coming over to have dinner with me. Is there anything that I can do to make you more comfortable? You know?
No, it sounds like
Do you
you're
wanna
gonna
hold my knife?
slather her up with like,
Really?
oh yeah,
Is that really?
It's serial killer-ish.
To say, is there anything that would make you feel more comfortable, more at ease? I know you're at my place. You don't know me very well. Is there anything that I can do to make you feel more comfortable? I just want to let you know I get that this can be worrisome.
Maybe
Even that is not
like
good?
I guess that would be fine. It just you'd have to be really careful with how you say it and everything. There's
I'll
no
let
winning.
you hold my knife and my handcuffs. All right. I keep all my rape supplies in the basement, so we'll lock the door. You can hold the key. No, because that's the thing. I'm aware of how, like, if
Yeah.
you start to address it, it's almost weirder.
weirder.
And that's where I'm like, so how do you, again, being the potential perpetrator of the fear,
Right.
how do I even remedy it?
So what's the situation? Like you
I'm just thinking like a first date. Someone
Like a first date-
Someone doesn't know you.
first
how
date,
do you
don't
make
have
that
her
person
alone in a room. Period.
Okay.
Like
You can't invite someone. Oh, I mean, it's getting pandemic shit aside. You
Yeah,
couldn't just
yeah.
say you want to get together, have dinner sometime. I'd be happy to cook. If they accept, I guess you just go with they accepted. I would never. I don't think I would ever do that
as
on
a
first date.
first date,
But there's
try
always gonna
not
be a-
to like
But there's always gonna be a first time, man. Ted Bundy was one charming ass motherfucker.
a first time, yeah, but like the first time you're meeting somebody, it shouldn't be alone in your house, especially not your house. Her house, maybe.
Because I can take her. Like,
It's
she
like-
can probably knock it.
It's like home turf. She knows the place, you don't.
Right.
She knows her neighbors. She might have friends that know where she lives and she can let them know or whatever. But like I would say try to avoid that, like not making her, but asking her to
Forcing
go
her.
to your
Do I do the James Bond? I wear a tux, push her up against the wall because that's hot.
Oh
Right?
yeah, all the
That's
rules
millions of dollars. Tuxedo. I'm
no
telling you.
when you're wearing a tux.
It says right. Did you know that right on the side, it's actually sewn into the inside jacket of a tuxedo saying you are allowed to rape whilst wearing this.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I think just in general, try to avoid having a woman over alone as a first encounter. That's just it. Regardless of whether she was thinking of it ahead of time or not, once she was there, she'd probably feel uncomfortable, and you're just not off to a great start.
Well, all of these things, like I said, for myself personally, just learning about them, like I want to learn. I want
Yeah.
to be educated because, like I said, like I as a male never worried about like I could walk down the street. I'm not worried about getting raped.
No,
But I'll tell you, there was parts in Los Angeles that I was in where there was nobody on the street and you could see people. I was like, fuck, I looked at my friend Mike and I'm like, dude, we're the only two guys on this entire street. There's no cars on the street. And we were walking down the street and we saw like two heads poke out from behind like a store and then back in. I'm like,
Oh, God.
all right, we're crossing the street and we're walking back up to Sunset.
Yeah.
Like it was just, but it was like a street that was like at 7:00 was full of stuff going on. We came out of a show at like 11:30, dead. Cars parked. But like, and I'm talking like, you look way down the street, 10 blocks, that there's no cars coming or going on the
Yeah,
street. Like
it's
this street's
scary.
fucking done. And that's what I'm saying is like, personally, I'm like, I've had experiences where like, I get that feeling. I've been in a room where I'm like, I don't know anybody. And right. I mean, if I've watched a million fucking crime movies where some dude is by himself and these guys just decide, hey man, we're fucking taking your shit or whatever. Like, I'm not really worried about getting raped.
I was gonna say like you're likely to get not likely, but like if something's gonna happen, you're probably gonna get mugged.
Right.
If something's gonna happen to me,
Yeah.
there's a much higher chance that I will go through some kind of physical harm, whether it's just getting clocked because they know they can, or
Real-
like
I don't think
worse.
so. It's so weird that like scumbags seem to have the don't fuck kids and don't hit women like down pat.
How many scumbags do you know?
But I'm saying when you look at like all the TV archetypes, I'm not saying it's always real on TV, but even the guys I've talked to who've had like a little bit of like, I know a lot of people, but the ones, and I don't necessarily associate because I don't like hearing like, oh, I go to jail, I don't care. I'm like, well, fuck, get your life together.
Dude.
Yeah. But they seem to have this whole like, and I mean, I'm not saying either of those things are right. In fact, that is one woman advantage, I would say, is that
Scumbags like you?
no, is that you guys don't necessarily have to worry as much about saying something and getting punched in the face as a result of it. Like, you can't win this one. I'm not saying that you won't ever get hit, but the amount of like women who'll scream in a guy's face because as far as they're concerned, nothing's going to happen. I can't get 10% of the way into one of those without a fist hitting my fucking face. I'm not saying I still wouldn't trade.
I still wouldn't trade,
but I'm just saying
you're also much more in control of that than a woman is of the situation.
You think so?
Yes.
I disagree.
Well, you personally, no. But in general, I think men are much more in control of when they get punched in the face for saying something
sometimes people just don't
stupid.
like a joke. Dude, I've seen guys get hit because somebody didn't like the way their voice. Like, that's fucking annoying. He's over there laughing with his friends. This guy doesn't even know him. He's just drunk and wants to hit somebody. And guess what? 99% of the time, they're not going, a chick looks like an easy one. Right? It's they go, I'm going to go knock that fucking guy. Because
and then on their walk home, they grab the chick who looks like an easy one. I'm just saying, I think the likelihood of a guy getting punched in the face out of nowhere is lesser than a woman getting taken advantage of in one form or another.
But all I'm saying is that like, I'm very against the notion that anybody on this world has a total easy pass and then someone else is only victimized. No. And I think that the people who are saying a lot of the stuff that we're discussing like to look at themselves as only victims and the other people are only the perpetrators.
No,
and they've only got it good and these people have only got it bad. And I'm
nothing is that clear cut ever.
Right. But the small people who are hearing the message are hearing it that way. Like I said, for myself, when it's like all men are this, I'm like, well, I know I'm not. But but just like I said, the instinct part that hears that, not the logical part, but the instinct that hears the attack, right? Or the accusation, it can't help but get its back up a little bit. And I'm saying, well, I'm glad because I know the psychology about it. I know that because I felt the attack, my instinct is to attack back. So I can hold back because I'm aware. But the people, usually the same shitheads who are going to do this stuff, hear that. And they're not going, well, ladies, please tell us your side. Let us learn. They heard the attack. They're already on the offensive back. And now is there communication and learning and growth? Absolutely not.
For sure.
So I guess trying to bring it home back to the beginning. By the way, none of this was on my clipboard. Start a political debate. I going back to the whole, it's not my job to educate you. Fine. But I personally, at any point, would rather be part of the learning process. Knowledge is power and understanding comes peace. So I don't like repeating myself all the time. And you're right. Some people are asking just so they can start an argument or pick a fight or whatever it is. And I think generally speaking, I mean, depending, maybe not. What do I know? It's not my experience, but you can sometimes tell if someone genuinely wants to learn.
Always.
Or if they're being, you think so?
You can always tell. Like,
then I would just say, like, the ones who want to know, don't give them shit, man. You're potentially increasing the knowledge.
I don't think people do, usually. And some people, if they're very, I don't know how to, like, stereotypical of their group and the reasons that they're discriminated against. So, like, either, I don't know, a woman who likes to show her body or a very flamboyant gay man or something like that. Like the people who get targeted most in those groups, they're fucking tired of answering questions. So any question they get, if they have a poor reaction, it's from exhaustion. It's not from being a dick. Like, it's just what it is. Ask somebody else.
I can totally empathize with that. If you're not going to, and I'm not saying like I walk up and ask. I'm saying it's like you're corrected, then you ask, and it's like, it's not my job to tell you. I'm like you're not turning me into an ally. In fact, you're making me less interested. That's the big thing, right?
Yeah, but how often has that?
It's actually shockingly happened a lot. Shocking. I couldn't put a number on it, but I could count on both hands because a lot of times I have had lots of experiences where someone was willing to tell me and I listened intently and I asked more questions. They go, but doesn't okay, but I'm open to it.
Yep.
I think I start every conversation with this is what I think, but I don't know. People who go, I'm right. That's such a wall to break through. But if
Yeah.
you're like, this is what I think, but I like having my stuff challenged and I like looking at it from a different way because I don't know everything.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Damn near, but no, but I don't know everything. And I don't know, I didn't have your experiences. I have this thing that I've adopted in the last few years that like some people are like, oh, this person's an idiot, whatever. If you look at everybody as if they have something that they could teach you, that really changes your perspective. I have a roommate who's not really all that bright. Okay. I've talked about him before, but he's got a good heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's very simple. He can't fry an egg. And that's not
Fair enough.
yeah. But he's traveled to so many different countries. He likes to travel and he'll work his day job all year to pay off his credit card after a trip, but he loves to travel. That guy can tell me about different countries and stuff that he's been to. He can tell me stories and what things are like, whatever. I can learn from him.
Yeah.
And if you look at people in your life, and I'm not to single him out, but it's somebody that you wouldn't go, what am I going to learn from this guy? If you open your mind to like, what could I learn from this person? Yeah. There's people look down their nose at like blue collar workers.
Yep.
And it's like, but they know shit you don't know. I
They
don't
can
know.
fix
Fuck
your
all.
toilet. You can't.
I can, but
Well,
no, but like a mechanic,
Yeah.
it's like they'll be the butt of my jokes sometimes stereotypically.
Right.
But I don't know how my fucking car works, and I need my car
Yep.
desperately to do what I do.
For sure.
So fuck. Listen, Merle, I'm glad you're there, buddy. I'm glad you're there because I need you, buddy. I need
Yep.
you, and I'm glad you can't read because.
Oh my God.
No, but what I'm saying is that like everybody, and if you develop the mentality that everybody's got their own story, everyone else has different experiences. And if you respect the fact that you can learn from everybody, it doesn't mean that everything everybody tells you is right, but everyone, again, going back to egalitarian, deserves to me a seat at the table and a voice because I don't know what you have to say. So rather than being that guy who decides the merit of what you're going to say before you've even said it based on the color of your skin or your gender or whatever it is,
Yeah.
like that's fucked to me. That's
Yep.
fucked. I'm like, no, let them. It goes Black History Month, Martin Luther King, right? A dream that we judge people not by the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. And
Yep.
now content, context, none of that matters. People slap a value on what you have to say, whether it's oh you're a white male so you're garbage, or you're a female so you're garbage, or you don't know what it's.
Or you
it
don't have a degree,
sucks.
or you this,
it
or you that, yeah.
It's so fucking stupid.
And in the same line of thought, people need to know what they are experts at and defend that,
Jerking
but
off.
not decide that they're an expert on everything because they're an expert on something. Like I know a woman who, oh God, I don't know. Okay, I won't single her out.
Yeah, just say you know someone.
I know somebody who is very advanced in their profession, and it's a very impressive profession.
She works in a nail salon, I
No,
assume?
I'm not doing this.
What do you mean you're not doing it?
Well, I'm not going to say the
Oh, you don't have to say what she does.
profession
Yeah,
because
that's
but
fine. If it's not in context, yeah.
She's very, very intelligent, and she knows a lot about her profession.
I'm
And so-
assuming stripper or prostitute.
No. Like,
Is it what you do? And then I can stop
No.
asking. Oh, well, okay, easy. You very no, I would never do this.
no, it's just, and it's very impressive. And
Text
if-
it to me because I know in
Yeah,
context
yeah.
the story.
And if that's all you know about her,
Yeah.
you just assume she's like brilliant.
Oh, really?
But then you listen to her
She's building
talk.
a time machine.
Like 5G rallies in Quebec City. Like,
5G rallies.
oh yeah, like 5G.
Oh, you mean like
giving
don't?
us-
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, like-
this is when you talk to her. She's like what?
Oh,
The Earth
she's-
is flat.
Oh yeah,
Oh no.
she's nuts. Like absolutely nuts. But if all you know about her is her, sorry,
That's
I
what she
can't-
does as a profession. That's fine.
I can't text
I can-
and talk at the same time.
You text and I'll talk.
Okay.
Because I'll go back to saying that like all of this, but this has a lot of merit to what we're talking about how we just give people a voice. Listen to what they have to say, because a title isn't going to tell you everything, and just what they have to say isn't going to tell you everything either. Like I tell people this all the time, because when you watch a TED Talk or a keynote speech, oh really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Right. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so smart.
I'm just going to say assembling tech.
Sure.
I can say that. That's enough. So
I've
this person,
already said enough that if whoever,
I doubt it. And you know what? Even I'll say this right now as a disclaimer. If that person ever tunes in, there's no fucking way
it's not that
anybody
person,
else.
it's her kid.
Oh, well, even still.
But anyway,
Even still.
anyways, very like impressive profession, very competent. I would absolutely trust her to do that work. But then she's absolutely not. She's one of those people who like will smoke 10 packs a day but only buy organic groceries because it's bad for you. The GMO
Yeah, like the
is what's
fat
going
fuck
to
who
kill
gets
you.
a double Big Mac,
GMO
large
is going
fries.
to. I only drink organic wine, 2 bottles a night.
Yeah.
But organic wine because it's just bad for you if it's not organic. And
Well, there's organic toxins too, which even though they're horrible for you, arsenic's organic.
Yeah.
It'll still kill you.
Like I just and the things. So that's my point was. People should know what they know. Know that you're good at something and accept that you may not be good at everything else just because you're really good at something. It doesn't take away from how good you are at that thing, but you should know that your level of competence in the thing you're best at doesn't automatically become your level of competence in everything else.
Right. 100%. Have the humility to go, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And like, again, that's being judgmental and this and that. Even I don't know if there's a certain level of vanity to it. Like, I know this, so I'm better at that. Like elitism, exclusivity.
Certain skills and knowledge bases are more valued than others in society. It's just how it is. And if you happen to know those, then there's some sense of superiority that comes with it.
The amount of like doctors and like lawyers and shit who've come up to me after a show and been like, man, there's no way I could do what you do. And I'm like, dude, I couldn't do what you do. Like, like it's so funny because a lot of us are sometimes we're just in awe of shit that we can't do, regardless of your own personal accolades.
And we should be in awe of all the other people who can do things we can't do. That's how the world keeps turning. Like
but we can share knowledge with each other and we can say, well, if you're interested, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing for me. It's like when someone shows interest, right? Especially if it's a subject they didn't bring up, right? If they show interest and your response is, well, it's not my job to teach you. You know what? You're right. It isn't your job to teach me, but you seem to want me to know, but you don't want to be part of that. That's what comes back to my original part, is not to say that person is wrong, but to me, that doesn't make sense. If I want you to know something and I have the information and you seem to want to know, where is the logic of not sharing it with you? It's like the analogy that came to my head the other day, which I don't think I'm going to use. I'll have to come up with something different because I would love to talk about this on stage, is like a grandchild coming up to like their grandparents and being like, look at this TikTok thing. Grandpa, you should totally do this and do that. Like, oh, cool. Well, that looks really neat. Like, how do I do that? It's not my job to show you how to do it. It's like, okay. So you should just know it's popular. Just download it. Well, I don't know how to do it. I'm not showing you. Like, to me, it's like, well, where does that expectation come? Like, you brought it to their attention. You created an interest in them, but you're now angry with them. And you're also young. You do that every day. You play on devices. That's your world. It's not his world. He didn't even know that was a thing, or she, whomever, grandparents. So the idea is that you bring something to their attention that they didn't know. They show genuine interest. Your response to said interest is, well, I'm not talking about it. That's you're right about the people who don't. It's not about I want to learn. It's about I want to start an argument. My argument is for those who genuinely want to learn and they're met with, well, it's not my job to teach you. To me, I'm almost like, well, then why the fuck did you bring it up? Do you know what I mean? Like, did you bring it up to make me look like I'm ignorant?
Well, there's people on both sides of that. They're not bringing it up because they want to learn, and some people aren't bringing it up because they want you to know. They're bringing it up for that same sense of superiority that people get on like commenting on Facebook posts or whatever, where they publicly call people out. Those people exist on both sides.
I almost want to be like, you're setting your plight back with this kind of behavior. It's unfortunate because
it's unfortunate that that's relevant, but it is.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, the whole idea is like, there's a lot of people who like, I'll ask a question, get yelled at, and their mentality is, well, I'm not going near that subject again. Because the last time I did it, I got yelled at. So do we create a society that's learning and growing if people's mentality is like, I don't want to go near a subject I got yelled at for, or I could lose my job over if I say the wrong thing, and I don't even understand it. But it's like, I've even tried to research certain things, and it's like, I can't find it.
I don't believe that.
It's true. Got shit. Episode 6, 100%.
No, I think if...
Telling me what I didn't find?
No, straight up. If you want to learn something about a group, there are places you can find answers that they will be gladly provided to you. Whether somebody wrote a book, whether there's forums online, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's people you know who know people, like
Listen to
can
episode
find
6. Listen to episode 6 of the One Man Podcast. I spent
6?
Yeah,
How
I spent
long ago
3
was that?
hours.
How long ago?
2017.
Yeah, it's 2021. Look again.
Oh, well, I'm not saying that it's all done now, but I'm saying that another plight could happen. Another thing could happen. Someone tries to find it. And back then, I couldn't find, just in the terminology, I could not find any like agreement on what it meant. I would find conflicting things. And why would the Washington Post be any different than the New York Times? Who's right? And so I created an amalgam of what I researched. And I said, this was the best that I could find. This is my understanding based on different sources. I didn't go to Urban Dictionary and wonder why it didn't make sense with the other things. Like, it was a legitimate attempt. And it was like one of the only times I got fucking emails. The only time I got like hate mail. They're like, change your definition. I go, I already said that it weren't my definitions. This was me trying to find out because I didn't know what they were. And so, I mean, maybe I've just had a different experience where all my genuine, good-natured attempts at understanding were met with hostility. And I'm saying that it's not deterred me from it, but it's certainly made me apprehensive and for a long time afterwards, fearful to even approach the subject because I'm like, I want to know. I want to, but I have been reprimanded for my genuine attempts to find out. And so I that's where I say like knowing the psychology behind it, when people feel attacked, they attack back. I'm able to kibosh that myself. But when I look at society overall, I'm like, well, it really sucks that someone's genuine attempt to learn something is met with, and that's not every time. Maybe it's the exact same as what you said, where it's like, when you say all, it's like, no, not all, but maybe enough that everyone looks at it like it's an all when you try to ask.
And I think the timing of the question matters a lot too, right? Because
during the wedding? Sorry. Do you take this? Hi, get the pronoun right. Merle, you hear what he called him, her?
yeah.
I love the idea that it's the backwoods guy who's the progressive social justice warrior.
See, when you did that voice,
you heard what he said?
When you did that voice, I didn't even picture somebody who was like invited to the wedding. I pictured like a guy who's like mowing the grass for the golf course, kind of like beside where the wedding's happening. And he's like, hey. I
love that you think a golf courses would be that progressive. Those elitist fucking camps. Oh, sure, we'll host whatever.
But no, I think, so let's just say it's at a comedy show, right? And it's after the show and somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, that thing you said, don't say that.
Oh, I would ask them why.
You would ask them why, for sure.
I don't even know what we're talking about, but theoretically anything
it doesn't
polarizing.
Even matter. Yeah. It doesn't even matter what it is, right? Somebody's like, don't fetishize lesbians. You're like,
Very difficult to do, by the way. Very difficult.
Important.
Most of them can bench more than me.
But anyway, so they, it's a lesbian couple. They didn't like what you said. And they're on their way out. They're like, hey, just by the way, not a fan of that. But, otherwise, good show, whatever. Yep. They may not want to spend another half hour talking about it. They probably just want to go home, enjoy their night. But it was worth saying something so that if you felt like it, you could look it up on your own, or you could just think about it or not. But if
they gave me context, we just didn't like the joke, I'm not going to be like, well, let me research the thousands of things they could have taken effect. Like, that's what I mean, is that there's a certain level of accountability.
Usually there's a bit of teaching in the question if you listen, because probably they won't just say, I didn't like that joke. They'll say, didn't love that you were fetishizing lesbian. I don't know why I'm using that. Anyways, didn't like.
Tell us something. Is there something you want to get off your chest?
Anyways, no. If they'll say that, you may interpret it as, oh, they didn't like that joke. But if you listen to what people say, usually they'll educate you in their comment or their question. Mm-hmm. So if you actually listen to it, you may learn something anyway, and they just don't feel like spending their next half hour of their lives talking about it. They just wanted to point it out, and maybe it's not.
As long as they gave me something, like, again, you don't have to talk about everything. I get that. Again, I'm not like, if you say anything, you owe me a 40-minute TED talk on it. I don't think that way. No. But if you're going to come up to me and say, I didn't like that joke, and then you're going to walk away, and the expectation is like, I can just drop doubt. Or like, that's not constructive criticism. I didn't like that joke. So I'm like, well, now you're just leaving me with like, well, now I can just doubt the joke. I don't really know what you took issue with. In fact, what you took issue with could be very different. In fact, this is a point that comedians make all the time, whatever race, gender, whatever, is it's funny that a lot of people will let a lot of shit go. And the one subject that's sensitive to them was the one they took issue with. It's like, oh, your joke about, I didn't like your joke about fucking, rape. I didn't like the rape jokes. Really? Because you laughed at the racist joke, you laughed at the cancer joke, you laughed at but that's the one. I'm not suggesting that rape jokes are okay. I was trying to find one of them and then the others. So that, believe it or not, happens. You might have one where it's like that joke you told about the car accident. My brother died in a car accident. You shouldn't joke about that. And again, it's like, but the cancer joke, the rape joke, the race, those were all fine because they weren't close to you.
Right.
And that's where I go back to that quote, is those who can't control their emotions want to control other people's behavior. So when you hear a joke and go, well, that person didn't kill my brother in the car crash. You know what I mean? Sure. Odds are that guy's not a rapist. The thing rapists don't do is walk around talking about how they rape people.
No,
so
not usually.
And these are still subjects that, and I've got, rather than waste our time on this, because we still have actual things to talk about. We go deep down the road. You look like you're in pain.
I have to pee so
Okay.
bad.
Do you want me to put it on pause?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just talk without you and I'll pretend like you're agreeing with everything. I'll just get it off my chest. You don't have to hear it. Okay.
I have to pee so bad.
Go pee. All right. Izzy's back from peeing. That was a really long one.
Oh, so much better.
Yeah, it was, and we started getting right back to the subject. She was looking for a snack. This one here, you would think, looking at the two of us, you're like, which one snacked through the entire podcast? And you'd be
an
wrong.
Empty iced coffee that was vanilla flavored. I have a bag of marshmallows. I have a Coke, and I have Halloween candy that I bought way before Halloween and never had the intention of giving any children.
I think you can, because you have like a very high metabolism, like very small.
That it's got to be it. Like, I don't know.
Like again, I don't remember where the hell we were in the subject, but I just remember this was one conversation. Oh, and it reminded me when we were chatting just now. Is so I this is something that's just saying, I was like, I was a cis male and I thought cis was straight. She's like, no, straight is your, what was straight? Straight's
your sexual orientation.
Right. But isn't that cis?
No, that's gender.
What do you mean gender? So this was the subject. This was somebody who was kind enough to explain to me one time, because I remember saying this, like, and I know I've talked about this in the podcast before, but I had somebody who told me, just for context with you and me, because you can offer shit in, is they had said to me that no, gender is not a thing. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's definitely a thing. And I think this is just for quick summary, is that I think a lot of people think that gender and sex are the same thing, because on forums and shit, it's been put in the gender, male, female, right? So they don't always put sex, they'll put gender. So I think a lot of people have understood, myself included, that gender was your sex. And so when people were walking around saying gender's not a thing, by the way, gender's not a thing, like, you have people who, like, again, seniors for the most part, and other people who are like, what do you mean? This thing that I've known my entire life, you're just telling me male and female is not a thing anymore. That's what I think people were hearing. And then it was like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's not a thing. And if you don't know, I'm not going to teach you. And you're like, what the fuck? What you're saying is crazy. That's not. And I finally had someone sit me down, like, well, not sit me down. Josh, get over here. Have a seat. Take a seat.
You need to know what gender
come on over here. Have a
is.
seat. I was saying, like, I don't get that. And this person, I didn't bring it up. I think the person was saying that, like, and I go, what do they mean when they say, because they're like, gender's not a thing. And I go, what does that mean? I go, are you saying that, like, male and female? And they said, no, that's sex. So gender, this is my understanding of it. I'm not right. This is my understanding, because someone took the time to help me understand that gender is like boys wear blue, girls wear pink.
Yeah. So
it's like a gender role. Like the idea is like women stay home and cook, men go off to the job and make the money. So to me, it wasn't but see, that's another confusing part. So they say gender role, but then if you're like, oh, well, then gender's female and males, right? The gender role. And it's like, no, because gender's not a thing. So that's what I'm saying, where the language that's used is sometimes convoluted, because you could say sex roles, males go to work, women stay home. It's being used in the same way. Realistically, it is being used in the same way. That's why if you said it's just gender means women stay home, gender and men go to work. Well, no, that's the sex roles or whatever. All I'm saying is, and I'm not trying to correct or change anything, I'm just saying that I can see how it's difficult to comprehend when people put it in those terms. Because if you say the gender role is women stay home, you're like, well, yeah, women, the gender. No, that's not a thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that's where it sounds difficult. So my understanding is, gender is like, I'm not fitting into this role. Because I'm a woman, I don't have to stay home. Because I'm a man, I don't have to go out and get a job.
Sure. Or like it.
And don't tell me to wear a dress because I'm a girl. Don't tell me I can't wear a dress because I'm a boy.
Things like that. Yeah. Behaviors that would really stick out in society, where if you're at the point where you feel that if you behaved the way you want to, in the body you're in that looks male,
Right.
that people would think you're very strange or that you're just straight up acting like a woman, that's when you're probably transgender, because you do not identify with the things that are attributed to people who typically have penises.
Right. Like they installed the Windows on a Mac. It's the wrong software and the wrong hardware.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I already knew that. I've said that before. But
yeah,
so
cis means that your sex is lined up with the roles that are typically assigned to you by society. So I have female genitalia, and I am totally fine assuming most of the roles.
No, that would be way funnier if this was a video podcast. Let's show it to the viewers. Just to back up your fucking argument. No.
Well, I'm totally fine.
But does cis mean like I identify as all the things a man should be then? Is that what the cis part means?
Not all the things a man should be, but you are okay assuming the role of a man.
Why are you yelling at me?
In society. You are okay with people thinking you are a man, and you're
What would the alternative be?
You wanting people to see you as a woman.
But then what is the cis part? If I'm a straight male, isn't this, when you say white, and I'm not coming at you, I'm saying like, to me, I'm like, is that not an extra unnecessary part? Because if you say he's a white male, well, if I'm a white male, doesn't that mean I'm already, or straight white male, doesn't that already mean that I identify as a male because I'm calling myself male? Because if I wanted society to see me as a woman, wouldn't I say woman? Doesn't that's the part where I'm confused. What is cis adding that without it is lacking?
Because people who identify as trans,
right,
shouldn't be other. It shouldn't be normal and trans. There's cis and trans.
Okay. But when you just say I'm a trans woman, and then I would understand?
Yeah. But
why is the cis part necessary?
It's to have language that applies to everybody. So it's so that trans people aren't
So you're saying I'm
seen...
still in the original packaging is what cis means, basically. I didn't change.
Pretty much. It's so that trans people aren't automatically seen as other. It's the same way.
But I don't want them to see as other. If you just said I'm a trans woman.
But then there needs to be a prefix for women who are biologically women also, or else it's seen as other. It's the same concept as straight couples calling their partners.
Yeah, that was the conversation that led to this discussion.
It's
I said, what are you guys, cops? Like, it's my partner. Like when you were a kid, you only heard partner. It's like, oh, they're cops.
Yeah, but it's to normalize it for people in the LGBTQ community so that they're not automatically seen as other when they get that prefix of trans.
Yeah.
So if I say I'm a cis woman, that's fine.
Yeah.
So that if somebody
else... How
else...
often do you say that?
It depends when...
I never do. I just go, I'm Josh.
Well, yes, most
I'm
people.
Kidding. Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm a cis, whatever.
Yeah, but it's just so that
you
there's
have
a prefix.
That's what it sounds like to me. Jesus. We got to remove that shit. That's all I've been trying to do. I heard I was a cis, and I'm like, can we remove it? That's what all this was based on.
But yeah, it's just so that there's a prefix for both cis women and trans women, so that it's not women and other.
Right.
Because that's what it feels like to that community when they automatically have to be labeled as something when nobody else is labeled as something. If they get labels, then so does everybody else. Trans women can also just call themselves women. Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking. Like, I'm a woman, and you want to ask more questions, and it's not their job to educate me. Like, oh, were you always a woman? I'm a woman.
You do not.
I know that's the point. That's what I'm saying is like, so I don't agree with that. It's a joke. I'm saying that,
but for some people, being trans is also part of that identity. They aren't just a woman; they are a trans woman, right?
Right.
So, for some people, it's better to have language that has a prefix on both so that it's not just woman and other.
Well, and that's how I understood the partner thing. That was where the conversation, because I was chatting with someone and the person had said they were female, or at least my understanding is they identified as such.
Sure.
But like cis female.
Okay.
And she just kept referring to her partner, but she was like saying his name. And so part of me was like, I wonder why she's saying that. And I started to, like, on my own going like, well, as a partner, like if you say boyfriend, is that somehow like he's above or below? I go, have they attacked that now? Like, is that a thing? And I'm like, and then I just asked, I go, hope you don't mind me asking. And I go, but is there an advantage to saying partner instead of boyfriend? I go, I just don't know. I'm honestly asking out of sincerity. And she goes, and no word of a lie. She was just like, I don't know. Like she was just like saying, no. So now they were students. They were after a show. So they were university students. And then she said, I think it's because when you say partner in conversation, like if you were saying, oh, my boyfriend, you're offering up that piece of knowledge. Like I'm offering up information that I'm straight. Right. Whereas when you say partner, it's not that you're not really giving out information. It's just that I don't need to tell you I'm straight with the conversation.
It's also just not relevant. Right? Like that's the whole thing is like,
yeah. Why do you need to know my sexual orientation?
You don't need to know.
Fair. I mean, if we go to dinner or something, I'm going to find out. Well, just obviously.
Likely. But yeah, no, it's to normalize it for gay couples.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being like, the word doesn't hurt. Like, and that's the thing, as I think people feel like there's a war on their position. Like being corrected with these new things somehow challenges and says that, well, your way is what you said is wrong. And that's the thing is like, it's just like Merry Christmas. Hey, I've always said it, but now everyone's telling me you can't say that anymore.
Nobody's saying you can't say they're your boyfriend or your girlfriend.
No,
whatever.
of course. But when someone's like, oh, but I have heard people say you should say partner. I've heard that. Not to me, because I don't have one, but, but what I'm saying is that like, I've heard people get corrected. That's where I say like that whole correction thing. It's good to learn. And I was like, partner's great. You know what? You're absolutely right. Why do you need to know? I've been saying for years, I've said like when people anti-gay marriage and shit like that, back in the 90s before you were born, but like listening to people say, I'm like, why do you get like, I go, are you living in a mansion on the hillside of California with millions of dollars, but where the only thing that you need to worry about is what your neighbors are doing in their bedroom? Like,
oh my God,
it so doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't. Leave them alone.
There was a comedian who was like talking about his dad. He's like, oh fuck, who was it? There was a special on Netflix and he was talking about how his dad, I know, he was talking about how his dad didn't really have a problem with gay people, but he's like, just don't get me involved. It's like,
yeah, like
who
what
the
would they
fuck
be asking you to do?
It's like they're about to fuck and they're like, wait a minute. Let's go get this guy's dad, get him involved, and then we'll fuck. It's like, no, that's not. That's
so
not how
many
it
people
works.
involved in other people's business. Like, just stay out of it. My thing is just like, and I've said this before. Maybe this is a great way for me to wrap this up. Is my big thing is just I don't want to hurt anybody, and my concern is that I may say or do something unintentionally that could hurt someone.
You want to purposely hurt people, so that
I want to be able to tabs. I want the fucking credit. Do you know what I mean? I don't want anyone with an accidental fumble and recovered for a touchdown. That's not you. No, I personally, it's just, I don't want to hurt anybody. That's not who I am. I'm mortified anytime. Like, I like joking, and I know that there's so many people who get jokes. In fact, I know so many people who are, let's talk, and it's so funny too, because in terms of, I was going to say this too, we were joking, and I can't remember what the hiccup was when you were saying, well, cis people trans people want, there's something that's included for everybody. So they're just creating this other category, but there's people with disabilities. So, oh, well, this person is a person who is blind or a person who is deaf. It's like, well, why don't we have a person who is that
able-bodied?
Yeah. But you don't have to say it with every time you're categorizing yourself.
You never have to say it, but it's there.
Okay. In case.
Yeah.
But then doesn't that go back to the whole argument of why do you have to call me that if I don't have to call myself that all the time anyways? Like, why?
It's about having the option. It's important to have the option for anybody who wants it. Like, if you're a cis person who has a ton of transgender friends.
I see. So you're just like, I'm OG. And I'm trying, there's half me trying to bother you right now.
But like, it's just, you shouldn't have to specify that somebody is other by only giving them a prefix to their gender.
Sure. And I can get behind that. Like
so
I said,
it's there
I
if you want it.
Yeah. I ask these questions only to learn. And I feel like I have I think you've really grown as a person during this podcast.
Oh yeah. Are we going to talk about the book?
No. All right. I'm trying to get you canceled.
It's 8 p.m.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're not enjoying your honor of being to educate all the people listening. I know we're moving
I
forward.
have groceries in the car.
I froze my ass off in the car.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I'm glad we got to talk about this though. And we'll move forward with it. I love these discussions too, because again, I think a lot, just to bookend it, is a lot of people want to talk about stuff like this. And like I said, there's a lot of fear associated, because as soon as you start talking about these things, people sometimes just kind of get their backs up and go, oh, who's listening and who's going to take it the wrong way? And am I going to get canceled or whatever it is? For sure. And I was that way for a long time, but I think my intentions are, You'll always find someone who'll take shit the wrong way. But I think my intentions with this conversation show that like I want to know and I want to include.
Well, you get to decide your intentions.
What's that?
You get to decide your intention.
Okay.
So I guess I think my intentions are good.
I know what my intentions are. I guess I think that they've been portrayed in the way that I mean them. That's my concern, because people will listen to what you say and go, you said this and you think, and I'm like, you're telling me what I think? You're in my head? Like that's the part where, and there's been a lot of comedians that say that once you say something, it's not even yours anymore. People are going to take it and decide what it means. Musicians have to deal with that. Oh, that song's about this, that song's about that. And a lot of them just go, I'm not even going to say what it's about, because if it means something different for you, enjoy it for what it means for you.
Yeah, Dave Grohl is big on that.
Is he? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying is I think that, you know, again, if you're listening and you're like, I don't get it, try not to be that aggressor who wants to ask aggressively. If you're somebody who's like, I'm sick of not being understood, if you get the opportunity to spread some information, having heard this conversation, maybe let them in. You never know. You might turn someone else into an educator, and now you don't have to fucking do the legwork.
I was going to say, but also it's not your job.
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. It isn't. I said, maybe it's not your job. It's also, guys, not everyone has to ask. We can all just stay in the corner and be angry, and it's none of our jobs to learn or educate or grow. I was going to say, and
some of the things, like, you just don't need to know.
You don't think so?
No. The number of people...
Like, I don't know the question that we're doing.
Well, I'm on to thinking about trans...
So, like, how big is it? No, you don't.
No, I'm on to thinking about trans people now, and, like, the number of, like, these poor trans people on TV or whatever being interviewed. Oh, yeah. So, like, basically, they're asked what their genitals are. I'm like, who the fuck asks that?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Josh... How often do you shave your pubes? Like, I don't want to know.
Very infrequently.
No, don't want to know.
You
but
asked
like,
me. It's my job to teach you.
No, but like things like that where it's like, God, you would never ask questions that invasive.
I would.
To people. Well,
just to see what the reaction is.
Kind, considerate members of society.
How dare you take that away from me?
Would not ask that kind of question to somebody who conforms to their idea of what this like typical human is. So don't ask stupid, invasive questions to people who don't conform to your idea of a default human.
This is going back to the whole common sense, like, isn't that common
be
thing?
Be decent.
Well, that's the thing too. And I actually I applaud anyone who, because people like to make fun of the courage thing. And I personally don't. I'm like, it's gotta take strength of character. And we're not just talking about the LGBT community. There's a lot of people that try to go after something that everyone around them is going to tell them is not. Yep. Like I tell people all the time when it being Black History Month, and not to start a whole new subject, but the Black Lives Matter thing. I've listened to people say some incredibly ignorant shit about it. And there was a woman on YouTube, someone showed me this thing and I was like, I hate this woman right away, because she's like, oh, I hear they want to give Black Lives Matter a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, let me just show some footage of the peaceful behavior. And it's like raids on stores. I'm like, oh, isn't it so peaceful? Oh, I despise her. I'm like, and they're like, see, like, yeah, I'm like, fuck you, fuck that woman. I go, that's the one of the biggest parts of the problem is like, yeah. And that's like saying, look at Christianity and then show footage of the KKK and go, oh, aren't they a loving group? Yeah. Like, it's not the same. You're picking the opportunists of a group to try to demonize the entire group. And when someone's like, well, why do they have communities where it's like all crime and stuff like that? I'm like, I talked about the class system. Like back in the medieval days, like if you were born a peasant, you were a peasant. You had one way to raise your class, and that was to become a knight and hopefully work your way up and to actually be knighted by the queen, which was to show you had been elevated in class, which is why to this day, knighthood is actually still of value. It's like to say that we've raised your class. It's archaic, but the tradition and what it represents is still there.
Are there any Black Knights?
Martin Lawrence in a Disney movie one time. It's called The Black Knight. It was a play on words, and I didn't watch all of it.
No, seriously, like
people, there might be. That's actually a really good question.
I don't know.
Are there any knights? But all I was saying was like, if you
people
think
are so fucking ignorant. Well, that's the whole point of this. Is like,
well, for starters, I'm like, just the example that I gave quickly. I'm not saying this is my best example. This was the example I gave to the person in the moment, knee jerk, whatever. I was like, if you think about communities that come from poverty, and I go, you look at the people that raise themselves out of those. It's a lot of hip hop stars and athletes. Okay. Why is basketball so popular? Well, because it's cheap. It's a basketball. You ever buy hockey equipment or football equipment or any of that shit?
My boyfriend is a big advocate for saying like hockey's a white sport because it's an expensive sport, and like Michael Jordan could kick anybody's ass at hockey if he was given skates, right? Like,
yeah, like it's a mentality thing. And you think like, so it's like you listen to rappers and it's like, oh, I'm this and that, I'm hood, I'm this. And it's like, you need street cred. You gotta be tough. You gotta be a gangster because that's what they glorify in the one thing. Well, I could do this. I want to be like that. So sometimes, yeah, there's a glorification process of crime because it's like, it's not because that's what I want to do, but it's like, well, I want to succeed. I want to achieve. I want to raise my class. That's what one of my examples, someone that I identify with does. You know what I mean? So when people are like, well, why they just want to be, it's not that they even want to be criminals. And I'm not suggesting that they do.
No.
But I'm saying when you look at an archetype of success, a lot of young kids want to be hip hop stars. And the hip hop stars, this is why I hate a lot of the lyrics in hip hop music. They glorify shit like crime and whatnot. It's a lot of insecure. I got bitches. I got money. I go, hey, relax. I know you're doing very well. How was your day? Why don't you tell me? When you tell me about that, like all the money, like, doesn't that just seem so insecure? I got money. Good for you. It's like country music, just with a better beat. I got a dog. I got a truck. I got a woman, like just bragging about what you got, you know, and one day you get your teeth back. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that like, you can see where it's like people go, oh, well, it's just, they're glorified. Sure. But if you're going, I'm trying to get out of what I'm at. What are some of the ways out? You look at some of the options. And then I say, well, you look at a guy like Barack Obama. Okay. And you're like, now I'm sure a young black man who's like, I want to make something of myself. I'm not even saying he started up, but just somebody like Barack Obama, where you got probably the white community, a lot of the white community that's treating you like an outsider.
Yep.
All right. Not all, but think about certain time periods in certain areas where you've got that whole side of the community trying to put you down and treat you like you don't belong. And you have to have the strength of character to rise above that. And then on top of it, you're going to have a lot of people in your community going, why are you trying to be whitewashed and everything like that? Why are you trying to be a white? So you're getting it from both sides, people treating you like, what are you trying to be or whatever. Imagine the strength of character it would take to ignore all that and to continue to push through and achieve and everything like that. Like, for sure. And none of this is thought of by some dumb blonde twat going, look at that, they want to get a Nobel Peace. Listen, this, oh, how peaceful. Like, whatever. I'll try to get off my fucking soapbox. But I saw
I'm not even going to like start. Just all I'm going to say about that is I read a book that changed my life, which sounds really, really, really cheesy, but mainly because it started me on just so much more critical thinking in my day-to-day life. It's called So You Want to Talk About Race. It's tone-wise, it reminds me of the book that we read.
Okay.
It's easy to read, but really slow to read because I was thinking so much.
There's a lot of reflection on it when you're reading it.
A lot of it. And it's definitely one, like, don't rush through it. Read a chapter at a time if you have to, but like, do it. If you're actually interested in learning.
What was it called? So You Want to Talk About Race?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to talk about race? Like,
yes.
So you think you can dance?
Yeah.
Okay. No, because I'm like, so you think you could black is what I thought. At first, I'm like, that's not the title.
Nope.
That's not the title. So I'm like, but so you think
that's where
I
got the whole premise of answering the questions is part of the exhaustion. It comes from that book. I can
understand that. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. That was the whole point of this podcast. Every time I bump into someone, hey, what's new? Are you still? And I'm like, I would have to just tell what I've been up to in the last 10 years. I'm like, I got a podcast. You want to know what's going on with me? Listen to that. We can have a fresh conversation right now. Forget what I've done. It's over here. And if you want to know, it's there. I think every trans person and everybody should have a podcast. And then when someone's like, hey, what does, you're like, episode 92. There you go. I talk about there. I'm not wasting my breath. I'm just joking.
It's a great book. I'm not going to say any more about racism because it's just too much and I get upset. So
it drives me crazy because, like, again, I'm egalitarian, so the injustice of it drives me fucking bananas. Yeah, drives me, and I have a lot of very vocal people around me that are ignorant as fuck, and it drives me crazy hearing it. I will repeat, I've said it before, the smallest dogs always bark the loudest. So
I'm nodding my head in agreement.
Yeah,
with
and
Kit
eating
Kat.
fucking candy. I've consumed nothing during this podcast.
Lies, coffee.
Sorry, snack-wise. How many calories does this have? 0. It's a black coffee, and I'm drinking water. I have consumed 0 calories. How about that? I'll rephrase myself. Jesus Christ, these fucking cis white privilege bitches jumping down my throat.
Is anybody still going to be listening? This thing's been going on for like 3 hours.
I'm going to edit you out of this fucking podcast. Yes, people listen. They enjoy it. As
You're
long
like
as there's, we got a good conversation going. Okay. I'm going to move on if I haven't polarized everybody. I'm going to bang through this one thing real quick. Guys, more stuff came from the boxes. I'm currently wearing one of the hats. I'm not posting pictures because I want you guys to get excited when your boxes come and you get to see them. You see the hat? What do you think? Look good? Dope?
Ugly.
She's got a fucking mouthful. She's so skinny and I'm so big. There is no justice, right? This is white woman privilege. Little hummingbird metabolism or whatever. You're on a spoken word podcast. You're like, does no one feed you? Okay. So the hats came in. Very happy. I've actually already packed everyone's boxes with the hats. Bottles arrived today. I'm happy with them. They look real good. They're metallic water bottles. Get Izzy's fucking input on it, but she's still putting shit in her mouth. I got the glasses back today. The whiskey glasses came back, and there was a small issue on the playing card boxes, which I got fixed, and they're sending me back. So they sent me the proof. It looks good. Everything looks good, fixed, whatever. And that's it for the box updates. I will say this. I have sold more of them. I've got a few left, not many, but it's so funny that I haven't even got all the stuff yet. So I haven't been able to show them off, but the amount of people who have like seen something in passing or, showed a friend, or I'd just be, a friend of mine would reach out, we'd start video chatting and they're like, oh, what are you up to? And I'm like, my room is an Amazon fulfillment center, and I'll show them, a thing or two. And they're like, oh, well, can I get one? It's like, yeah, there's still a few left.
The hat looks great.
Oh, thanks.
Internet Explorer response here.
Yeah. Eventually. Oh shit, that page is done loading. Yeah, I'm very happy with them. Squeep. All right. Big news for me. I'm very excited about this. I've worked so hard at a bunch of little back end admin stuff that, I just got one of those horrible shudders, you just shudder for no reason.
Yeah. Cause it's 16 degrees in here.
You knew we were going to be here for at least an hour. You didn't feel like turning on the heat?
I got here when you got here.
Yeah. I'm not going to start fucking with your thermostat. Fucking treat me in the manner which I'm accustomed. Anyways, I'm going to have to pee soon. I'm all caught up on YouTube episodes. So a couple of months ago, I had episode 34 was where I was at on YouTube. And it takes me quite a bit of time to save. Like I have to go into iMovie, put an image on it, save it. It takes like 15 to 20 minutes per episode. Then it uploads to YouTube, and then I rinse and repeat. And the thing is, when you're doing something that's like going in the background, it's easy to get busy, distracted, do other things. So I was getting like 3 or 4 of these at a day. This last week, I got shitloads of them up. So I was just like in my room, constantly switching. I'm all caught up. So this is the first episode that when it comes out for tomorrow will also come out on YouTube on the same day.
Gold star.
Yeah. The only thing is, how polarizing is all the shit that we're talking about? So all the YouTube people, there's people that throughout the process. So I'll even stamp it with the date, original air date, because they were coming out
right
like this last month. And it's like, well, they came out fucking 2.5 years ago.
Ouch.
Right. So they were coming out, and even though there's an original air date on it, and I say the date at the beginning of every episode, there was people commenting on it like, dude, how do you fucking put out several episodes a week? And it's like, and how do you find new things to talk about?
How are you predicting the COVID lockdowns, dude?
Right. It's like, how did you know? Like, well, that's the thing. They're actually listening to like now. They're listening like 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I went out and I did, like, for them, if they're not paying attention to the date, they think I'm gallivanting. Now, I haven't gotten any shit for that, but they're just like listening to this stuff going like, how do you put out so many episodes a week? I'm like, I put out one.
Those same people probably are out gallivanting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I can't smell, taste, or hear anything. So yeah. So I am now caught up, guys. YouTube onesies. I should have addressed this earlier. Welcome to the present. You are now in the same week as I am. Welcome. I don't know how they brave you, but there's some people who love to listen to me while they go to sleep. And I was like, thanks. Like, I put you to sleep. They were like, no, you just have this calm, soothing voice.
It's really funny because I get that I don't listen to yours when I'm going to sleep. I listen to it when I'm at work. So that's probably why I don't remember some of the stuff. Like we were saying earlier, you're like, oh yeah, remember this? I'm like, no.
It's a sidecar. This is not something you sit down, stare at the wall, and it's going to engage you. It's you put it on the background. Cooking, driving, folding laundry. If you're not interested, you'll fade in and out of the interest.
Other things when I'm falling asleep, but not this one. I think it's because I know you. It just feels weird.
And you know what it is? There's a lot of people who say they can just text me. So when they're listening to me, they will message throughout the episode and say whether they agree or whatever. Yeah. And I don't have, I like it because I mean, oh, they're listening. I appreciate that.
It's great. You don't even have to contribute to the conversation because you're having it at them. They're just responding in your reading. You're like,
Oh, yeah. And I'm doing something totally different. Like I'm not there talking to you. I'm doing something.
And sometimes that's hard to remember too, because sometimes I'll be at work and I'll have you on in my brain and then I'll like text you something and I'll be like, what? That's going to be totally out of context. He's going to have no idea.
I don't know what the fuck. There's some people like, yeah, I think he is too. I'm like, huh? What?
I'm like, oh, he's not actually talking
like
to me.
Some guy messaged me on an episode, like they commented on YouTube from an episode that was like a year ago. And it was like, I don't know if I'd actually call him a foodie was the thing. And I'm like, what? And I'm not listening to it. I don't like listening to me. Shockingly. I'm sure a lot of people are like, I'm sure you love this anyway. I don't like listening to my voice. No. I don't.
Sorry. Continue your thing.
What thing?
Your thing.
Oh, no. I'm just saying I don't like it's just I'm happy that we're caught up now, guys. So YouTube listeners, welcome. I will have the episode out after spending months several times a day, every day of the week, getting the episodes. Doing it once a week now when this one comes out will be infinitely easier. And I'm glad that the YouTube listeners are enjoying because no matter how much I try to drive traffic to some sort of podcatcher where they'll download it, they're watching just on YouTube. So I accept and know that YouTube onesies, contact at onemanpodcast.com for an email. If you agreed or disagreed or anything like that with anything that Izzy said.
An email that just says hi.
Yeah.
He'll be thrilled.
I'll be thrilled just to know that it's running. Did you hear what I said though? I'm like, if you agree, disagree with anything Izzy said, yeah, it's all on her. I don't want to hear what your fucking thoughts are on me. No, you know I do. So that's it. So that box update, YouTube listeners, good. I've got 2 podcasts, if you're still here, that I want to plug. I actually have 3 things that I want to plug. This week I had a lot of people reach out, and maybe after this episode, they would have reconsidered that. It's like, you got so polarizing. You know what it is? And I'm not going to start a new subject. I'm just going to pay credit to Izzy. Izzy is a good friend of mine. Like I said, she's kind of more in the thick of like what's politically correct and everything like that, what's progressive. It's not a bad thing. We all need to learn, like just different generations. Stop paying attention. You got lives to live, whatever. You're not learning every day. So when people look at the young guys, you know, and also students don't realize that like, hey, you're in a place where you're getting new information every single day and what's supposed to be theoretically cutting edge or whatever it is and challenging new ideas. Like not everyone's doing that. Some people have kids to raise and jobs to go to and are living Groundhog's Day where it's the same day every day. They're not like, hey, I'm going to sit down and learn about a new subject. That subject may have not even come to mind to them.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like they're not sitting like, oh, I'm going to watch the news and who's arguing on Twitter. They're like, no, I go to my shop and carve a wood statue or I go down and do my knitting. It's actually the woman who carves the wood in my example and the man is knitting. I'm very progressive. But so all I'm saying is that I appreciate having you on and I would talk like this about you because I know for one that you're educated. I know for second that you're fair. Why are you so fucking quiet now? You're just looking at me weird. There's no.
Well, you're talking about me. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, you just want to let
This is beautiful.
I can't. Well, I couldn't tell from your face. I'm like, if you accept or you're like, jury's still out.
I'm just taking it in.
I'm just saying I would have a conversation with you because I don't feel like, for starters, I don't want to talk about a subject like this with somebody who I think is just going to blindly agree with me. Do you know what I mean? But it happens. I'm a guest. I don't want to argue with you on yours. I don't want someone to blindly agree with me. I want someone who will, if I'm out of line, challenge me on it. It's not to say that like every time someone disagrees with me, I'm just going to adopt the new thing. Again, I don't like rolling over, but I think I like having my feet held to the fire, so to speak. And at the same time, if someone's going to offer me new ideas, I'm going to challenge what they're saying to see how strong their conviction is, right? You know, not you per se, but somebody new who's barking about what these new things are. I'm like, well, what did you learn that today? Right? Like our previous example, like you're going to yell at me for something that you learned yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. I have a few other good people in my life too. I've got a friend. She posts, okay. She posts really cool creative stuff. She is in the same boat where she posts things and immediately wonders who's going to come at me for this. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean they're not even polarizing. They're not even polarizing. This is a good friend of mine. She just posted a video the other day where she's doing the beginning of the Britney Spears video. Oops, I Did It Again, I believe is the one.
Okay.
And where it's like oh, Britney, I got this for you. Oh my God. But wait, didn't the old lady throw this in the ocean at the end? Yeah, I went down and got it for you. But the thing was, she did a TikTok video, and in the video, she portrays both roles.
Okay.
So she does like the female and then she does the guy.
As literally everybody does on TikTok?
Yes. But then she was like, she had mentioned something. Oh, so-and-so said that like I'd make a good looking male or whatever. And then I was like, are you thinking about like this? Just a stupid throwaway, like, oh, are you thinking about it? And then she's like, oh, do you think that might upset somebody? And then she immediately was like, I'm worried that I might upset someone. And now I'm doubting. And I'm like,
wait,
that's where we're at now.
Who said, are you thinking about it? She did?
I said that.
Oh.
Because she had mentioned that someone else had said that they said that she would look good as a male.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, are you thinking about it? Like,
okay.
Just
as a joke?
Not even, yeah. Like, and I don't even think it's a funny, it's just one of those like throwaway lines. Like, like you tell me something, I'm going to, rather than going, oh, interesting or, oh, cool. Like, I'm going to just try to keep the conversation going even further. That's just,
you'll just bring more insult into the world.
But not even insult. No, I was just like, are you thinking about it? She's like, you make a good looking guy. I'm like, all right, well, but immediately caused source of concern, anxiety. And now this like fun, cute, creative thing that she put time and effort into, harmless,
right? Absolutely
harmless.
Now she's like, eh.
Yeah. And so I was like, listen, this person is amazing. Absolutely amazing, absolutely talented. I want to plug her Instagram because she has a lot of ton creative stuff. It's Regina Bianca Music, R-E-G, like Regina, Saskatchewan, Regina. Bianca, spelled the way you would think. Music, Regina Bianca Music. I know you want to throw a follow her way. That's why I brought it up, because you're such a sweetie pie.
I'm going.
Okay, but guys, the reason I bring this up is it's just there's so much of the shit, myself included. Right, a few years ago, after I got in shit for, in my mind, trying to open my mind and learn more, I immediately retreated back inside myself because I was worried about because one person got mad. I was like, I can't talk about things and I can't challenge ideas. Yeah, but it was the fear. I definitely succumbed to the fear, and you guys are good people. You guys support me and I appreciate that. And so I'm just asking if you guys would kindly, this is somebody who like I spent like 2-3 hours chatting. You go ahead and watch it if you want and see like what you thought of it. I believe it's the last post that shows the back and forth on TikTok.
It does.
But this is somebody who was in the same boat as me.
Nobody could get offended by this.
Right? It's adorable. It's sweet. It's kind. Yeah. And the thing is, this person is such a kind-hearted person, so open, so progressive, and just wants to entertain people, wants to be funny, wants to be cute. So I'm just asking you guys, this person and I were having a conversation. It was just, she's like, it's been so long since I posted anything because I'm just so worried. Her work saw a post forever ago on a different account and was like, all right, guys, no more, blah, blah, blah. This was like in her own time. It was honestly just like a singing, and I don't want to say too specific because I know she'd be concerned, but it was like an innocent video that like you would do in your own time. Mm-hmm. There isn't even anything to do with gender or race in it. It was just like kind of like dancing around. And it was like, okay, guys, no more dancing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like on my personal account. So that was like my work.
Where does she work?
Can't say.
Okay, but that matters in this.
I could tell you there's nothing to, well.
Because that does matter, unfortunately.
To be just dancing outside?
It depends. That can matter.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay. I'd like to talk about it, but I know that she would be concerned that someone would put 2 and 2 together.
But it can matter just in any profession where people need to feel comfortable around you.
But in your own time?
It's public information.
What are you talking about?
If it's posted online?
On your personal account?
Yes.
So if you go to a bar after work and you're dancing at musicians are playing and you're dancing and you post that you were there, that could affect your work.
Anything that you post on a public platform, even if it's privated, is public information. So if you're in a position where somebody needs to feel comfortable around you, or they need to trust you, or they need to think you're believable, like any kind of thing where you need credibility, things that are posted on public platforms can be.
So here's the $1 million question.
They're looked up.
Do you agree with that personally and ethically?
What do you mean?
Like, you really think that like somebody couldn't just post that they're having fun because someone's going to look at it and go like...
That's a very broad question. And it's not answerable. Like, specifically, it depends on the video. It really does. Because dancing is a very broad category of thing. And I'm not here to shame anybody. I think do what you want. But
right.
Public information is public information. And if you need to be credible in your profession, unfortunately, there are things that just can't be public information.
So I'm going to throw, these are all hypotheticals.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone's a doctor and they
Sure.
showed that they were out like dancing at a bar.
That can...
Like, and we're not talking like zero,
No,
like
no.
I'm not taking my shirt off. I'm not
Nope.
drunk spilling stuff. Like, it's not like, oh, my doctor was hammered at a bar. Like, I'm saying this is just somebody who's dancing at a bar to music, had a great time last night. Like, I get that, oh, it's public information, but like, it's so funny to me that we're in a place where we're like there's arguments about like, this is so private, none of your business. And now it's like, oh, everything you do is everybody's business. Like,
Well, it's
so
not if you
fucked
don't
up.
put it there.
Right, but it's like, well, then how much information, like, I guess, but even if it counts private, you're saying that should still be...
Anything you put on any platform, private or not, just expect it to be public information. I don't think that's a new insight on anything. Everybody knows the internet has no secret hiding places. I think, unfortunately, if you're in a profession where your credibility really matters, just don't put it there.
But could you, like, you personally, like, can you think of a... I'm not saying, like, again, like I said, someone's shit-faced at a bar and they're a surgeon. I can see the relevance between those two things.
Sure.
That's a poor judgment call on that person, I would say. But at the same time, I'm also going back to common sense. I'm not going to pretend like every doctor doesn't have a personal life. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's certain connections that are being made by other people and they're deciding, well, what somebody should be able to do in their personal life. Like, to connect, like it's Doug Stanhope years ago, like almost 20 years ago, had a joke saying that some people's entertainment is complaining. To complain is their form of entertainment.
I totally agree with that.
And he said, it's like, he goes like, you know, they were mad. There was people who walked out of his show one time because he was drunk on stage. Yep. And he goes, who cares? I'm telling jokes. I haven't forgot my act. I'm not on the ground in a fetal position crying, shitting myself.
Yep.
Like, jokes are still coming out of my mouth. What did you come here to see? Who cares if I'm drinking?
So,
he goes, that's like going to a strip club and complaining because your lap dancer's a communist. What did you go there for?
Yes, but I would argue that once you put it online, you kind of lose the right to say, well, that was my personal life. You made it public. You put it there.
He's not saying like, I'm not saying like you can't have this out in public, but I'm saying that if someone's going to go, you drinking on your personal time definitely relates exactly to your professional time. And I'm just saying that, like, I think it's unreasonable to expect that somebody is 100% of the time only a professional demeanor. That's the part that I think is unfair. So I agree with you that, like, you put it in public, you should, like, I put this podcast in, anybody on the planet has access to this.
Yes.
Theoretically. I'm sure there's certain villages in parts of Africa where they don't have internet. But all I mean is that anybody who has access to the internet can have this. I have spoke passionately on this. I've said things that are probably not the most progressive unintentionally, but I did.
Yep.
I've cried on this podcast. I've wept, not like, but I have welled up and I've cried on this podcast. Anybody can hear it. Enemies, I don't have a lot of them, I hope, but people who don't like me, people want to judge me, it's out there. And I don't pick and choose. I accept the fact that it's public. But I just think that, like, for someone to be like, I can't put anything, oh, this is a great conversation. I was just trying to plug her thing. But this is what she's going through.
Yeah,
right?
And
Is
it sucks.
that you
It
can't...
sucks. It shouldn't be that way. I don't think it should. I don't think that somebody who's in a profession that is highly regarded or requires credibility should have to be so careful about what they put on the internet. But unfortunately, like I said, it's no longer your personal life once you put it on the internet.
That's fine, but my thoughts are, and I agree. I don't disagree with that. 100% we're on the same page. You put it on the internet, it's public. I'm fine with that. My grievance, my issue comes from what the public thinks when they see it. And that's the thing, is that I find that the businesses are holding the person accountable for what the public thinks. I can't be accountable for what other people think they saw or think. It's like looking at an abstract painting and saying that's a rape scene, that artist needs to take it down. You don't know what that was. Because you saw it a certain way doesn't mean that that person has to be accountable for it. You know, you're accountable for the action. The action is dancing. How does dancing hurt any job? I danced in my personal time. Realistically, like I'm going, again, like I said, I'm progressive, but I'm also like, I'm going to cut through the bullshit on all this stuff.
Yeah.
How does someone dancing in their personal time make them any less capable of doing their job? Now I agree. Now I'm certain you haven't seen it and you don't know what I'm talking about, because I had to be vague, and I'm giving you, they're definitely on board with that, because you don't know. It's not fair.
I don't need to know.
But well, in order, like, because I'm like, oh, dancing. You're like, well, were they fucking titties hanging out? And like, you don't know. You don't know. That's not fair.
It honestly doesn't matter, because it was obviously enough to trigger a response from somebody.
I'll tell you later. Your mind might be blown. Like, yeah, but it was just like, it was. The idea is just, I think it's fucked up when it's like, oh, the only message that I could get from what I saw was that person's just, they're a fun, happy person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's again, my interpretation, but I'm just like, I also know what she does. And I'm like, there's no fucking way it has anything to do with that.
Of course not. But it doesn't have to.
And I think the thing is too, is that there's so many things that are fearful, so many companies that are fearful that like, oh, if anyone sees this, they're going to shut down everything. It's like, people are fucking, I don't know. The reason I'm sharing with you guys is that I give every one of you that listens to my stupid ass talking about whatever every week, the benefit of the doubt is that you could support someone who's just trying to put out stuff that makes you laugh and makes you smile.
Yes. So
I'm just asking you guys, somebody who's really struggling and really concerned with the whole, like, I just want to do something creative. Somebody who is, I'm talking a lot about it. I've already given the tag or whatever. So all I'm saying is this is a creative person who I feel got the shit end of the stick, and like myself before was concerned that like, look, I'm just trying to make people laugh. I'm just trying to do a kind thing and share some positivity. And there's a lot of people in the world that are fearful and like, don't do you.
And I want to say again, like I have zero reservations on what somebody should be able to post creatively, but I unfortunately think there is a link between what becomes acceptable to post on the internet for everybody to see and your career. It changes things, and it's not your fault. It's not your employer's fault. It's just,
I just don't understand. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I
but
can't.
Unfortunately, you don't have to understand. I don't understand why it matters either, but I know it does.
You don't think it matters to understand though? Like when your job can end over something that you would not see. Like,
but
don't you think it's fair for them?
Don't.
Best thing, don't be a creative. You want to work a job, don't be.
You know exactly what I mean. And
no,
I
don't. I'm being sincere. If you're saying you should know, and it's not your boss's fault or job, or it's not your employer's job. If the idea that you could post something that would result in you losing your job, and it was not related, but somebody somewhere could have a synapses that connects the two, I think that that's so dangerous and unfair to expect of people. I'm not saying that I don't disagree with you that people can connect things and you can look at something and draw it, but the idea that like it's not your boss's fault. I'm like, well, it is if they're telling me I can't do something, or not fault, but you should tell me, look, here's a list of shit that we don't want you sharing with the public. I think that's reasonable, as opposed to we didn't tell you, you should have just known.
Sure, but I think a good rule of thumb is if you're thinking about it, don't do it.
That would apply to the video you just watched.
Then don't do it.
That's so...
It sucks.
Fucked.
I'm not saying I think it's how it should be. I'm just thinking it's in general. If you're thinking about saying something to somebody and you're going, this might really not go well, probably in most cases, you're better off not saying it. If you're about to post something on the internet, and you're wondering, should I put this on the internet for everyone forever? And you're thinking about it, just don't. Or at the very least, sleep on it, ask some people, not just friends, because friends are going to encourage you, as they should, in creative endeavors. I totally support
Imagine just
that.
a painting, though.
But
like,
just
imagine if you're like, well, will someone see this? Will someone think I had too much white and not enough black on this canvas? Like, because you can anxiety and overthink shit into oblivion.
Absolutely.
And that's
if
where I've been.
There's no relation to an outside career, and the only risk is that people won't like it or that people will be offended by it, fine. But when you have another personal risk that you're taking, don't do it.
But that's what I'm saying. There's so much of it where you go, how is this even related? And then the job goes, oh, it's related. You go, how? How is this related? How does
it all comes back to personal judgment. That's it.
But that's what I'm saying. There's people out there who are going to try to find ways to connect just to get you in shit. Like, and that's what I'm saying. So like for me as a creative, this conversation, you could find somebody who would get upset with it and try to find ways. Those two people have no right to, well, we mean no harm. I'm a comic. My job is to try to make you laugh and to try to hold society's feet to the fire.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that like.
But that job allows for this kind of conversation. My job allows for this kind of conversation. Translators need to be up to date on terminology. They need to have conversations with people from different points of view so that they can understand how to translate certain authors' voices. Like, if it's related, that's fine. The only thing is that this conversation, I don't think, shows any big lapse in judgment. Whereas somebody posting something that they themselves weren't sure they should post already shows that it took a judgment call to put it on the internet. Regardless of the content, the judgment call to put it on the internet could somehow turn into they have poor judgment overall, and that's why this went wrong in this scenario in their career and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I'm not saying any of it's right. I think it's all garbage.
That's what I'm saying. I get that. And I think that, like you said, like I just think it's unfortunate because I believe you could do that with any post. If like the whole idea with your brain is you ask your brain a question, it's going to give you an answer.
Sure.
If you,
I don't think you can do it with any post right now. Like,
I do. If you ask, how can this be taken the wrong way? You overthink it long enough. I just showed Josh a picture of a puppy. Oh, there's somebody out there. Well, where's the cats aren't represented in this picture? Why are the walls so white?
Okay, but career-wise.
Nice collar on the dog. It's way too big for that dog. It's going to get out and it's going to get lost. What are you trying to say? You know, it's cruel the dog did not give consent for this picture.
But you know that those things don't hold up, right? Nobody.
If enough people, you get enough crazy people all of a sudden tweeting about how rude this picture is, and we never thought. I'm just saying, you know how mob mentality works. And then the next thing you know, the employer decides, I don't want to get any of this on me, so we're going to just ditch that person. It's like, what the fuck?
Okay, but
I agree. Like it's a good point. I would make the same argument about the video we just watched that was posted. It's like, this is innocent.
I think it's fine. I just think, in general, trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. If you think there's a risk, there's probably a risk. Just don't do it.
There's a risk when you leave the house that you might get hit by a car or something. Like,
but all these extreme
the risks
examples,
we don't think are going to happen.
But all these extreme examples of like, oh, you leave the house, you might get hit by a car. There's a collar on the puppy. Yes, it is. It's a different kind of risk, right?
Every time you get in your vehicle, your statistic there, you are realistically, you are rolling the dice that there's not going to be a drunk driver or someone's not going to be on their phone not paying. It's small, but it is a risk, and we act like there's no risk. And all I'm saying is that as much as that dog picture, I agree with you, but you get the right person with the right amount of whatever anger is building in them, and they decide that's the fucking picture I'm going after.
But
that person could.
That won't, like, that one person, yes, and maybe they have a few crazy ass friends who will agree with them, but overall, like, as a translator, nobody would ever be able to take that picture of a puppy in a spin studio and actually manage to discredit my judgment, discredit my language skills, discredit my credibility as a translator. Like, in my job, there's no way that post could ever
I'm going to need you guys to send me emails. We're going to try to come up with something.
You guys are going to get me fired before I even have my accreditation.
You shouldn't be. All I'm saying is that I just believe that some of this shit's astronomical. There's a lot of things in life where we just assume something. There's lots of times where we think something is going to happen and it never happens. We're afraid of something happening. There's a lot of fears that I think this could happen, and it's happened a lot of other times to other people for a lot of other different things. I'm just saying that, but those fears become very real. And now when they manifest, and this is what I'm, again, every now and again, I might be able to bring it back to the beginning. It's just that I have a friend who is kind, entertaining, and that creativity has been smashed out because of a constant fear of like, whatever I put might be, who could take this the wrong way. And I just think it sucks because if every creative allowed the naysayers, because there's no creatives that get away with putting something out and everyone loves it. Just doesn't happen. Absolutely. And so if everyone listened to the naysayers and then went to even and then tried to find the people who are like, who are the ones who like take issue with it, not just that they don't like it, but like they're going to give context to it that's not there. Yeah. And that's and if you think in your head, like your example of just saying, well, if you're hesitant, all I'm saying is that sometimes people have gone so far to think of that one person in a million and go, well, if there's a risk, then maybe I shouldn't do it. And that's the part where I'm like, that fucking person, to me, I guess, no, I think maybe you're right, is to me, I'm like, that risk is worth it. If I could maybe make the other 999,000 people happy by doing it, then I'll risk that. And I'll hope that you guys won't turn your back on me when that fucking person, if that's the only email I get is that one person out of the fucking, and
you know what? That is the one email you're going to get. Yeah. That is how it works. But the
looks like we're not making it to 200, guys. 196 fucking. How funny is that? Episode 6 was the one that fucking I got in shit for. 290 episodes later, we're bringing it back.
But I think, if the risk is worth it, then it's worth it. But if you're in a career where you know it could definitely get heated and that risk isn't worth it,
just blame it on the minority. Fucking around,
but
guys.
No, I totally get what you're saying about creatives getting crushed by the idea that not everybody's going to like it. It's not about people not liking it. It's about what consequence will that have for you. As a comic, the consequence is that person's not going to like it.
I'll get in line.
Okay. Yeah. As a professional in a completely different field from your creative, your consequence is much larger. So it's just different. It sucks. And I hate being the person who's saying these things because I feel like I sound like such an asshole. Like, don't do what you love.
No, you're not taking a hard stance.
Safe side.
No, and I honestly don't think that you're advocating that either.
God,
I think what you're saying is just, this is the perspective to look at. You know what I mean? It's like I said, I'm glad you're here because we get to get kind of a different flip side of the coin. I wasn't even thinking like, okay, I was just like, hey, your personal life's your personal life. But you're right. Like I said, first thing my brain came up with when given the opportunity was, doctor who's getting shit faced. Yep. I could see someone going, oh, I don't want the guy who drinks to operate on me. But at the same time, I'm like, well, fuck, if I was watching people live or die all day long, I might want to have a fucking couple of drinks after work too. Like, and that humanizes.
And you and I are the kind of people that, honestly, like, I would prefer to have a surgeon who gets wasted every once in a blue moon.
Yeah, like, he doesn't hate fucking people anymore. You know what I mean? I don't want the guy operating me who's like, one of these fucking assholes. I want the guy who's having a drink at my comedy show going, oh, he's a comedian? We need these fuckers right now. You know what I mean? I want to laugh after this shit.
But a lot of people, they get nervous. They're very afraid. They want to make sure that everything that professional does on them, for them, in their lives is strategic and thought through, and that they have good judgment, and that was somehow they think that that's part of what was taught to them in school. And it's
they want this notion. They still believe that doctors know everything.
I love that. Anyway.
Doctor knows best. I had a friend who I showed them, they're a US citizen. I showed them the video of Trudeau crying the day Gord Downey died.
Yeah.
And I was just like this, I was trying to, my reason for showing this video is like, look what this artist meant to Canada. Like, this is our guy, our president, like, and how the loss shows. And what they took from that video was like, oh, I just don't respect him. He was crying like in front of people. Like, we were raised that like, that, you don't cry, you don't show weakness because you're the head of the country. And I'm like, honestly, I go, well, first off, and this is also someone who, not shitting on them, but because my immediate go, well, Barack Obama shed tears after shooting. This is somebody who's a Trump supporter. So they already hate Obama too. Right? So we'll go, Obama after a school shooting showed like to me, it's showing humanity.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy, I'm more relatable to this guy because I cried when Gord Downey died.
Yeah.
I find it fucking horrible when kids are murdered in schools and stuff like that. But to them, it's like, no, you never show weakness. To me, I'm like, that shows a lack of empathy.
That's scary.
It shows, yeah.
I
But
don't like that.
But that's how different people are. And I'm not saying that they're wrong or I'm right, anything. Yeah. All I'm saying is that like to have a blanket statement like, oh, you can't show emotion. I need some, guess what? That person who's representing me, I want them to show empathy because they also have to employ that same fucking thing when they're making decisions on my behalf.
Exactly.
I want them to be empathetic.
For sure. But yeah.
So
all that to say, I've said all these things about, you know what, just don't post it. It's not because I think that's right. It's just because that's what's safest and what's probably best in the long run. And the same goes for me because I like I said, I'm like scroll through my Instagram. Honestly, it would be really hard to find. Now I'm going through
hashtag problems.
I'm
I
say I didn't post it for that reason.
You didn't post it?
I didn't post it.
I thought that was on there.
Nope.
You didn't post the hashtag or just the
I didn't
picture?
post the picture.
Isn't it on there? How have I seen it? I don't have a picture of
You
it.
took it.
Well, I don't keep that shit. Do I still have that?
I don't know.
Can we talk about that?
Can you not? Yeah, we can talk about that.
So funny. So we were working a Good Life activation.
Yeah, Josh was working for me.
Yeah.
By choice, because now I know.
By choice.
You don't take the management position at those jobs.
Yeah. See, there's a little thing or two I've learned.
God.
But
Yeah.
But we had a blast.
That was so fun.
So we were basically outside at horrible events doing just the dumbest shit. But I think like we had to take pictures of kind of like, I guess like action shots or whatever. So it just looked like we were involved in the day's festivities and stuff. And we were, but just they're like, run around and dance around and look like you're having fun with everybody. And we're like, ugh.
And this day, it was one of those days 2 summers ago that was like 42 degrees. It was hot. We were melting. It was disgusting. It was humid, and it was at one of those events where they have like bubbles and shit everywhere.
It was like a mud run or something like that. So there's
fest.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And you're like sticky already just from existing, and then the air is like getting inside of you, and it's
You didn't get sprayed, right? Like, did you dump a bottle of water on yourself or something like that? Okay. You were just to cool off. So we're in red garbage fucking shirts for the branding, and I guess Iz was wearing like a leopard bra,
which is totally fine under a red shirt, by the way.
Which I'm actually surprised that it even showed through. It shouldn't have shown through a red shirt.
It really shouldn't have.
But you could. It was basically her just standing there. Now we're at work. This is one where it's like, okay, this is related, unintentionally, and it was like, like water on, and here's this girl standing in a red shirt with a incredibly visible. Like leopard print bra. So she's like back to the people trying to kind of dry off. It was hot enough that it didn't last long.
No, it didn't. It was but it was a solid like 20 minutes where I was like, I can't interact with customers right now because I'm like flashing them through my shirt. And
like you're just like, oh, this is the thing with having a bra, like a leopard print bra, whatever, And I was just like, problems. like hashtag bra problems, but problems. And
you were like on me. You're like, start the hashtag. People get
I was like that's funny.
I'm like, I don't have.
But you're like, I can't put this on. Well, you were a good sport about it. I think you enjoyed it just as much as I did.
Well, that day, that's the thing, right? It's one of those runs where like everybody's super hot. Like by the end of the day, no person had a full shirt on.
Oh, I was so brutal.
Like women were in sports bras, men had no shirts on, everybody was in shorts, everybody was soaked, and you didn't know if it was sweat or water. It was probably
so gross.
Both. Like it was it was one of those days, one of those very rare days where you walk outside and everybody just has a common understanding that you're not judging anybody today. Like
it's like you walk outside into a pool. It's just so wet
gross.
In the air. And it was like, we're not talking like, we were out there for like 3-4 hours. Like we started at like 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
It was stupid.
Yeah. And then it's like, we'll be over at 5. It's like,
and there's no inside. It's in a paintball field.
Outside. Yeah. You're outside in a field. That's it.
All day.
So
the only refreshment you had was like shade from a fence and like popsicles.
You can't get out of it in the porta potty. You're in the basically Korean sweat box. The stench.
God, I'd forgotten about those porta potties.
There's so much gross shit. So, anyways, getting back to it. Speaking of that, problems and
I didn't post it, even though it was really
funny.
funny.
I thought you did.
It was really funny, and it wasn't even like I say, it's exposing myself. I'm still in a full red t-shirt. You can just see like the pattern of the bra.
Yeah, that's all it is. It would, it would look like a bikini under the shirt.
Under the shirt.
It wasn't
like, there's no, it's not even like having a nipple show through an opaque shirt. It's not
what's the
even
size
that.
below an A cup?
What? Gonna pretend you didn't say that. Anyways, but no.
I'll let you edit it out.
But even that, where it's just a pattern through a t-shirt for the sake of a funny hashtag, I didn't put it online.
Oh, I thought you did it. I thought you were braver.
Nope.
Hashtag brave. Courage. Whatever it is.
Hashtag prude.
You even look disappointed now. It's never too late. It's never too late. I'll send it to you. All right. Guys, at Regina Bianca Music. Don't blame her for all my crazy shit. Great person, could really use some love. Honest to God, just a follow. You know, she started posting again, and I encourage. I go, look, you don't let them crush you. And I said, honestly, any job that's going to fire you for basically just doing what you love, I go, you can't run from them fast enough. And her, by the way, and this is my opinion from what I've noticed, but her career is not her passion. The career supports being able to do these other things. And I can say from years of getting fired for being funny or whatever, all it did was fuel me to keep doing stand-up and keep being funny. Because I tell people all the time, I go, I get paid to do now what got me fired from other jobs. Cracking jokes, making people laugh, whatever.
Yeah, I know, I almost fired you, fuck.
Did you?
No.
I was going to say, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, so moving past that, I got two other people I want to shout out real quick. Because again, you guys have no idea. As much as this podcast feels like it's going on forever, I spent at least 3 hours with each one of these people, chatting with them, listening to what they were trying to do, encouraging them, all this stuff. So I really want to give them some love, give you guys some love while we're on the same topic. So the other two, one of them is my buddy Zach, who is listening from just outside Pittsburgh. Zach has been a onesie for a while. He listens when he's playing games. That's his way to listen to one of my podcasts. Nice. He plays PC games. He puts the podcast on in the background while he's doing that. That's his way to listen. Zach is a nice guy, young guy. One of the dudes that I've met through just playing PlayStation, having groups or whatever on that. And he's got a podcast where he kind of just talks about what's going on with him. Zach is, not to put him on blast or anything, because he talks about this in his podcast, and I encouraged him to do so. Zach suffers from anxiety. He's got really bad social anxiety. And just, I guess, I don't want to say like necessarily self-esteem issues, but I've chatted with him, and it's just like, this is a guy who has got a good heart. And just struggles with certain anxiety things or whatever. And I was just saying like, hey, he was saying I wanted to start, wanted to start a podcast or whatever. And I just gave him some tips on like, well, just talk about you, man. Like talk about the things that you're interested in. Gave him some tips or whatever. He's got a couple episodes out now. The podcast's name is, sorry, I'm just looking for it here in my notes. Come on, Josh, you had this. Where is it? For fuck's sakes. BPZ Talks. So Big Papa Zach, BPZ Talks. He talks about his interest in like deathcore music and some of the things like pop culture stuff that he's into. These are where his podcast will be going. He's got, I think, about 2 20-minute episodes out now. I listened to one of them the other day, and it was interesting. Like myself, like not everything that I say is going to be of interest to you, but it was interesting listening to him talk about his interests. And I can link it to you, because it looks like you're trying to find it. I don't think it's on Spotify yet. It's just on Podbean. I probably should have mentioned that. I apologize, guys. So these two both, Zach is 18, does not have a job, is actually concerned because of his anxiety. So he's like, I have really bad social anxiety, and he's actually concerned that he won't be able to find something. So I've chatted with him about that and say, look, there's all sorts of people I know that have anxiety. You can find something, be a janitor in a school, working by yourself, like whatever it is. There's hope out there for you. Again, at a young age, sometimes people go, well, I can think of 3 jobs and I can't do any of them. It's like, well, there will be something that you can find out there.
I literally didn't even know or think of translation as a profession until after doing 3 years of university and something else. So
yeah. Like there's so many things out there. You might go, oh shit, I didn't even know that was you can be a dude who goes and tunes people's pianos, whatever the fuck. There's jobs you can do that don't require interacting with the general public. Yeah,
that's actually a really hard job, by the way. I'm
editing that out. No, but all I'm saying is that, but there's things like where it's like, oh, that's not even a job I would think of, but it's like, but that's a job. So Zach just talks about himself and some other things going on there. Podbean. So I would just say go to podbean.com or download the Podbean app. That's the hosting site that uses it right now.
So cute.
What, Podbean?
Sounds
They host my site. They're great. They are the hosts of the One Man Podcast. So they are, the reason I bring that up is that Podbean does put your podcast in everywhere else. So I can send it to Apple and Spotify, everything I can do through Podbean. However, that's only available to people who pay for the yearly, service or whatever. I pay for that, of course, because I've got tons of it. So anyone who's looking to start out, Podbean will give you, I think it's about like 5 hours of content storage. At a certain amount of downloads, reasonable amount, but a certain amount. So, but they don't share your podcast everywhere, right? Because, they're not filling up the void with people who've got like 2 podcasts out or whatever. So currently the only place to get it is Podbean. And obviously a little bit of love, go podbean.com and then just search BPZ Talks. That's Big Papa Zach Talks. And you guys can find it. Listen to an episode or 2. Feel free to throw a comment on there. At most, it'll take you 40 minutes here and there to just listen to somebody who's given it a try. Somebody who, like I said, suffers from social anxiety, is putting themselves out there a little bit, just trying to see, if there's some content or whatever that people might resonate with. But even if it's not your thing, it would mean a lot to me, just to be able to throw a few downloads to someone. I can't tell you, like my first days of this podcast, so many of my friends reconnected with me, and it was so cool to hear from you again and chat with you and stuff. But like every download I got was so cool. I'm just like, oh my God, someone's listening. Like it made that work. It made me coming out of my shell and sort of talking about stuff, more worthwhile. So again, would love it for you guys to do that. Thank you so much. And then finally, this is a big one. This is a friend of mine, been friends for 15 years. This is somebody who I chat with here and there. And as of late, and I say as of late as in at least the last year, maybe a little more, this is a friend of mine who she talks about this on her podcast because I was like, you have to do something with this. She was saying she wanted to start a podcast about anything. And I was like, you got to talk about your life situation right now. It is incredibly fascinating. And I go, in the amount of people who are going to either be supportive or relate, or maybe just appreciate the fact that they're not alone listening to your situation. I go, you got to talk about this. So I'm going to try not to tell you anything about her that she hasn't at least got for you in the first 2 episodes. I have listened to both episodes, and I've given feedback to both these people on their episodes. So you'll hear slight changes in the second one, and you'll hear my name dropped in them. They're like, Josh said, I was like, all right, well, what do I know? I know millions of downloads, but I'm like, just to help a little bit. Yeah. I do come from the position where I'm a comic, I'm on stage. I've learned that if I'm telling a story, even though some of mine can go in different directions, is at least to let the audience know what I'm talking about. So if it's a subject that I can't go, there's this show I watch and, I think it's kind of good. It's like, well, what's the show about or whatever? Like you got to assume the audience doesn't know what you're talking about. So give them what they need. It's the same on stage. If
what's
I tell a
her
joke,
life like?
I'm happy to share it. And you guys gotta fucking download, just stream whatever, listen to these episodes. It's only going to get better / worse. Okay. So my friend, Tiffany, all right, I'm going to start by saying the name of the podcast is Trapped in a Trailer with Tiff. Okay. So my friend Tiffany, I met her years ago when I worked at Future Shop. She was dating a friend of mine who worked in the same department as me. We started hanging out. And when they broke up and I eventually lost touch with him, she stayed a friend. So it was cool because we actually, just in terms of connecting as people, not romantically or anything like that, but her and I shared the same sense of humor more than he and I did. And so we've stayed friends ever since. But Tiff has, since she moved away from Ottawa where I live, she eventually got married. She's had 2 kids. And the situation that she's in, she moved around different parts of Ontario to the point where she's now living in a trailer with her 2 kids. They currently do not have running water. I can't go into much more detail on those particulars, only because she hasn't talked about them yet on her podcast. So the idea is I talked to Tiff and the situation that she's living in right now. You want to talk about a devoted wife. She will get into this in time. Let's put it this way. I will tell you this. At the time of this recording, her husband doesn't even know that this podcast exists. So, no. And she will get into all this stuff with him. But this is somebody, Tiff has struggled with, I don't think it's anorexia or anemia, but she's had eating disorders that she has overcome. She's had a lot of stuff in her life that she's overcome, to be honest with you. She's tried many things. Tiff does not come from Like, it's not like she was born in a trailer park and now she just lives in a trailer of her own. Like, this is someone who comes from like upper middle class, parents were married. Like, she'll get into all of this in the podcast, but this is someone who's like devoted, in the relationship, got married, got pregnant, had kids, and is now stuck in a trailer on her in-laws' property with the future prospect that they will someday have a home on this same property. She does not drive, so she can't get a license because of peripheral vision. So she does not drive. And during COVID, she's tried a few different creative endeavors, which are actually very successful, but she can't get to the post office. She lives in the country. I should say lives in a country, like a trailer in the country, with the in-laws. The in-laws live in the house. They live in the trailer. And she's quite literally trapped in this trailer. He goes off to work every day. He goes and does the grocery shopping, everything like that. And she's stuck here with the kids. Currently, no running water, because I guess it's like a 3-season trailer that they've called it. So no running water. They bird bathe. Oh, fuck yeah. Guys, like, and she's even talked about it. She's like, the basics that you take for granted. Like, we were chatting during video conferencing when I was talking about some of the things I would suggest or whatever. She's watching me make an espresso and she's like, it's like porn. Just watching. I was going to like rinse the cup. Yeah. And she's like, oh, running water. Like, and so, yeah. And the story she's told me, I'm like, I go, if you're stuck, I go, this has got to be like your public journal. Your like, not plea, but just yell your story out. Let people hear how you're living. You know what I mean? Like, and she's a good mom. She's a very, very good mom. It's just, she's trapped in this trailer. She can't drive. She can't go anywhere. Everything's on good faith that the husband's going to get them out of this situation. Wow. And I'll tell you, if I was in Vegas betting red or black, I'm not hopeful. But she's going to take us along for the ride, so she's not alone. So I cannot tell you guys, please check out Trapped in a Trailer with Tiff, also on Podbean. Somebody too who, oh man, I'll let her tell her own story more so than that. But I hope that in and of itself is enough for you to be like, I got to hear the stories, because she wants to tell them. It's just a matter of learning how to like talk and talk it out. It's new, right? Keep in mind too, both these podcasts that I've suggested are new. Someone who doesn't speak publicly, people with both of them have social anxiety. So that's why I'm suggesting, like, you're by yourself when you get to say it, but you can share it with anybody. And both of them, after putting a couple episodes, whatever, seem to be enjoying it. So like I said, the more people that'll take a second and just listen to this, download it, whatever, the fuel that you will be giving somebody to actually kind of come out of their shell. And I can't tell you how much value there is to that. So without further ado, as I'm sure is just desperately trying to wrap this up. One of the longest episodes I've ever had. So great. I have to pee so bad. We're going to talk about...
You're allowed to pause it too.
Thanks. No, I know. I'm going to. Trust me. We're going to get onto our...
started the...
We're going to get onto our review of the 4% fix. All right? Jesus. We'll be back in a sec. Oh, man. And I am back with a empty bladder tank. So... the book I just said it before too, but it's been like 6 minutes for us. The 4% Fix, guys, How 1 Hour Can Change Your Life by author Karma Brown. I will say, just before we get started, because I'll forget, is I contacted my buddy Chris. Again, you guys want to throw some love out there. The Idea Shop on Instagram. My buddy Chris, who, I explain in the exclusive episode. So if you guys bought a One Man Podcast 200th episode limited edition collector's box.
Don't give the people too much from the exclusive
episode. They're not getting anything. They're not getting anyone who doesn't have a box. Unfortunately, there's some deets you're going to miss out on. But my buddy Chris, those who have the box will understand who he is, has got a company called The Idea Shop now. And I was corresponding with him today. We are going to see if we can get ourselves an interview with Karma. So we've written this book. He's gonna reach out. Don't know. I can't say for sure, but we'll find out. So 4%.
So let's be nice.
I don't have anything but nice things to say about this book. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to start, just because I don't know where to start. I'm going to start by just reading the inside cover of just this basic synopsis for you guys. It'll be put more eloquently than I could summarize, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day, 365 days a year. There is no way to turn back time or to stop the clock. Those seconds, minutes, hours, they tick along regardless. But while you can't actually manipulate time, you can choose what you do with it. If you could find 1 hour a day for something you've always wanted more time for, even if the how details were fuzzy, what would you do with it? To be clear, we're talking about a mere 4% of your day, a single hour. So what bakes your cake? Interesting question. Training for a 10K race or triathlon, learning to play the guitar, reading the stack of books that currently hold up your bedside table lamp. Have you ever longed to take up knitting or painting or cooking? Maybe you have a book in you. Perhaps you dream of speaking another language. If only you could find uninterrupted minutes to practice. Something stammered there. Yeah. Anemone. Maybe you used to love what? Maybe you used to love playing the piano, but now it's in a junk mail holder. Oh, but now it's in a junk mail. Now it's a junk mail holder and dust bunny catcher. And you wish you could get back to it. I would let you read the last paragraph, but it'll only underline how poorly a job I just did. Karma Brown will help you discover your own 4% time fix and offer a clear plan for making it part of your daily life. Because while we all have the same number of hours in a day, none of us knows exactly how many of those hours we're going to get in the end. Let's exploit the heck out of the ones we've got. You know, the funny thing is, in certain parts of exactly.
Holders.
Yeah, that's a task. I'll tell you, that'll take an hour out of your day easy. So the idea with this book is the 4% fix is effectively 4% is the amount of time 1 hour in a day is. So 1 hour is 4%, which right like knee jerk. I was like, 4%. Fuck, that doesn't seem like enough, but it is. It's correct math. I assume she did her numbers before putting it on the cover of the book.
Honestly, I wouldn't even know. I fucking suck at math.
Oh, really?
Oh, so bad.
I was just like, whatever. You're the fucking book writer.
Yeah.
Author? Shut up. She's, the point of the book, the 4% fix, is, and feel free to jump in at any point. She's stuffing her face with fucking marshmallows and candy.
Well, I'm done the bag now. They're gone.
Just no justice. I'm going to have to get something like garbage on the way home just because there's no way I'm going home editing. Well, I don't really edit, but I got to put sounds and shit in. And then at the same time, like go cook a meal. Fuck that.
Just
I'm going
sounds
home.
over all of the things I said.
Yeah, man. It's like, what do you think is? It's just, I just put in a bunch of like Trump sound bites where you just sound worst.
Anyway.
So this 4% fix, the idea is that she's suggesting that she's part of a 5 a.m. risers club. So what she's saying is that you basically get up early in the morning and the 4% is the first hour of your day. And you devote that to yourself, something that you want to do. It's not used to, wake up and clean out your junk mail folder, or put a piano in it or anything like that. No, the idea is that like you don't use it to complete a task. You don't wake up an hour early and do the laundry or clean the kitchen. The idea is that you use it to devote it to time that you would spend on learning a new language, writing a book, whatever creative endeavor or just passion project that you have. It's I think the metaphor that she uses in the book numerous times is like looking at your day like it's a cake, and every day you have 24 slices to give out, and a lot of people will start their day by giving a slice to the kids and making breakfast and getting everyone ready for school. And then, going to work is 8 slices and all, whatever it is. And just by the end of the day, you look at it and, sleep obviously, but you look at the cake and you're like, oh, there's nothing left for me because I gave it all away. And the theory behind her 4 p.m. fix, no, the 4% fix is you start your day by taking that first slice for yourself. You take the first hour for you. And that way, if you give all the rest of your cake away wherever it goes, at least you got a piece for yourself first, which is truthfully the most important.
Yeah. And I think the main point is that by the end of the day, enough things will always come up that your cake's going to be gone. It doesn't matter if you took a slice for yourself. It doesn't matter if you took 5 for yourself. By the end of the day, it will be gone. You will get people asking you to do things. You'll get stuck in traffic. That'll be another slice. And you don't really have nearly as much control over the rest of those cake slices as you do over the first ones if you wake up before the world starts around you. Exactly,
yeah. And the nice thing, too, because as soon as you start the book, she kind of goes right into what the 4% fix is she makes it very clear. Like my mentality was like, well, fuck, I can't just get up an hour earlier. I'm going to be exhausted, which is basically something. So just for the record, it is addressed very quickly in the book that this is not about get up an hour earlier. And it's not, and unfortunately, I think she may have touched on it very briefly because she goes back to the 5 a.m. thing for herself. That's her time, her schedule. 5 a.m. is that extra hour before life starts that she gives to herself. But she doesn't address it, in my opinion, enough in the book. Just to reinforce it, is that it's not about waking up at 5 a.m. If you're the midnight security guy, it's not that 5 a.m. is the sweet spot. It's the idea that for Karma, the author, just for Karma, like what, your personal, like that's her name.
Yes.
For Karma, 5 a.m. is the before everything else starts hour that she can give herself. And she also addresses the fact that it's not about sleep deprivation. So it's not like, close yourself down, at the same time and just wake up an hour earlier, because sleep deprivation is a very real thing and very bad for you. It's addressed in many different ways in the book and on all the different effects of things and what goes on with your brain during sleep. So sleep is very much important. There's nothing in this book that's going to suggest you give yourself sleep deprivation.
God, no. And she actually talks a lot more than I thought she would about the importance of sleep and the science of sleep, and basically how we don't know a whole lot about it, but we know it's important, and that's kind of non-negotiable. But I like that it's not pretentious and it's not subscribing to one study of the kind of sleep that's important, and she's not even saying necessarily that mornings are better. She's just saying in general that's the time that you will be able to dedicate to whatever you want,
right? Because
once everybody else is awake,
yep,
your cake just starts disappearing and you don't have much say in it.
Exactly. And you would think to yourself, because a lot of people go, well, I don't have free time until the end of the day when the kids are in bed and the dishes are done and all that stuff. And I know for myself, I'm like, well, I got a bunch of things I got to do and I'll do the me stuff at the end when I'm done. But we're all exhausted. And they go into the science of, again, the brain and how the brain responds to basically the difference between giving yourself that first slice at the most opportune time. Because when you first wake up, you don't suffer from decision fatigue, which is something I've heard of prior to this book.
Yeah, me too.
Many
I thought
times.
It was cool it came out. We talked about it like not long before reading this book, and I was like, hey.
there's a lot of books I've read in the last year that I've heard things coming like back in this. In fact, I'll get to them. I wrote them down.
Science is just as trendy as any other thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of the concepts in this weren't new to me. It was nice to hear them again and be like, okay, this is like, these are things that have resonated with me from other sources. I'm glad to hear that they're incorporating this because it builds value in me. I'm like, okay, we're not just talking about, hey, get up, an hour before everybody else or take your first hour of your day. Cause we've all heard, take care of yourself first. One of the metaphors she keeps using is the oxygen mask. Put your own oxygen mask on before anyone else's. Yep. And the idea is, she talks about, go to sleep a little bit earlier. What I found interesting too was, just going back to the previous thing, decision fatigue will make it so that by the end of the day, you've got, certain areas of the brain that just become depleted of the resources you need to be able to focus on tasks and focus on creative endeavors. They're just done. So you could take that last hour of the day before bed for you, but it isn't anywhere near as optimal as if you were to give it to yourself the first part of the day. So whatever part of the day you wake up at, if you're one of those people who wakes up and, gets dressed and goes out the door and on your way to work, try to go to bed an hour earlier and get up that extra hour earlier and give yourself that hour, again, for whatever it is that you want to do, learn a language or whatever. And some people might go, well, I want to learn an instrument and I live in an apartment. Like there's even certain strategies and things that that she suggests that may help you out in those particular situations so that you're not just like, well, everything I want is impossible. Because you're going to get people who are going to make excuses. Even there's times I found myself going, well, that's not quite feasible for me. But realistically, like as long as you wake up and you go, okay, before I start answering emails, before I jump on social media, before I start doing all the procrastination stuff, just be like, do this for me. And she even suggests the night before, make just a tiny little point form game plan. So rather than waking up and going, okay, this hour's for me, but like, what should I do or whatever? It's some suggestions in there.
Use your depleted brain that's already dead, that's not going to accomplish a whole lot to plan for your morning so that you don't have to use even those minute resources in the morning. You can just start on the thing that you want to start on. And I think the point she drives home like again and again and again is this thing is for you. And it's not time to do nothing. you still are doing something, but it's something that you have been meaning to get to and that you want to do and that you're excited about. Because she says, like, getting up early can suck. So be excited about what you're doing, even if you're not excited about getting up for it. And eventually you will come to tolerate the getting up part at the very least.
Absolutely. And there's, like I said, I mean, this stuff is all diving way more in depth. These are broad strokes to give you an idea. Cause I don't like, tell you everything in the book and then you don't need the book. Like it was, like I said, I'm actually proud of myself because I got it read in 3 days. So
Sorry.
No. It's the first book I've finished in some time. This year, well, not this year because we're in 2021 now, but in the last 6 months, I've read 2 books, which is way more than I've read in quite a long time. I've started several books, almost finished several, but to just read them, like I've finished a lot of the DK stuff that I've read over the years, but like those are picture books. There's still lots of great information in them, but they're easier for me to consume. They're more stimulating visually. Speaking of which, just a little thing about visual and whatnot. It's interesting because they even talk about, she talks about, people who would take notes on a laptop versus taking notes by hand. Because when you're taking notes by hand, the person's talking faster than you can write. So you're forced to take the information and process it down into point form or whatever, so that the actual information has been processed by brain, as opposed to just turning into a parrot or a stenographer and just copying it down. You're not really processing, you're just writing down what you're hearing. Yeah,
you're forced to study it before it even hits the page, like to understand it, or else you won't be able to summarize it. Yeah, no, it's there's lots of good tips and stuff in this book.
They talked about something that I've seen before. So one of the things, so here's the thing. She talks about too, like you want to make sure that you get a lot of the blue light, like say banish blue light from the bedroom or whatever, because I always knew that light was not, people say it's not good for you, it doesn't help you sleep or whatever. I didn't realize that the melatonin, right, the sleep hormone, that your body will not even produce it or will produce vastly less of it when it sees blue light, because your body's circadian rhythm is like, oh, it's daytime, like we don't really need to go to bed. What was fascinating too, they talked about sleep patterns for people before we had like inside light, where it was like they would sleep twice a night because they'd sleep for like 4 hours, wake up and
I love that.
Talk and shit like that, and then go back to sleep.
I love that so much. I wish we could do that. That'd be so cool. But the thing is if you decide to do that, you'll be alone and it'd be weird.
I want to talk by candlelight. My oil lamp is ready for us to have a discussion.
We're talking dice carved out of bones. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to do an aside.
Okay.
So my dad got his wisdom teeth removed.
You turn them into dice?
No. Oh my God. Okay,
you just said dice and you're like, my dad. I'm like, okay.
No, I have to. God. So, okay. My dad got his wisdom teeth removed recently. And because they didn't belong in his mouth.
They didn't belong. Whose are these? What do you mean they didn't belong? Hey, I mean, he's what's his age?
49.
The reason I asked why is I'm like, at this point in life, like why? Like mine, I got out recently because they were moving shit in my fucking face constantly.
There is a why. So they're not hurting anything, but he's retiring, so his benefits are going to run out for that kind of thing. And he's like, they're not hurting anything now, but on the off chance that eventually they might be a problem, I'll just get them removed while somebody else will pay for
that
it.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense.
So got them removed. It was fine. And then like 2 days later, I was on my way out of the house and I grabbed my coat. My dad says, "Oh, that's your coat?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Sorry, I thought it was mom's coat." And I'm like, "Why would you think that's mom's coat? That doesn't make any sense." And he's like, I put some dice in the pockets. And I was like, "Why do you have dice?" And my mom's like, "We bring them to Sky and Adams." I'm like, "But you don't touch things when you're there. So why would you need dice?" And so I'm processing all of these things that don't make sense, because it doesn't make sense that he wouldn't know it's my coat. It doesn't make sense that they would bring dice. And it doesn't, like, none of it makes sense. So by the time I'm done, like, looking into space trying to process all this, I look down at my hand. I'm like, holy fuck, there are human bones in my palm. And I just yell to my dad. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Was his teeth?
Yes!
Yeah.
He put his fucking teeth in my pocket.
And that's what he meant by dice?
Well, because I was going to reach in and he wanted me to like actually like touch them and like grab them.
Were they loose in there?
Yes.
Ew.
So I had my dad's bare teeth in my hand. It was so awful.
Your fucking thing is listening. Interesting. I don't think that it'll pick up on the mics, but her Amazon or Alexa is like reciting the fucking Pledge of Allegiance or something over there.
No, it's like telling me.
No, I know. It's talking about like move your head from side to side. Is
Yeah.
it like giving you instructions on the hokey pokey?
I don't
That's what
fucking
it
know.
sounds like.
But yeah, anyway.
I kept
sorry.
my teeth too. I asked my doctor to give them back to me. And he's like, you want to keep them? I go, I'm paying you to take them out, not to fucking keep them for me.
But yeah, so anyway, sorry. Just like I had to do an aside. I don't remember how it came up, but it like triggered something, and I just, yeah.
It would be great if you just grabbed them out of your hand and he swallowed them. He's like, those are mine. Like a jewelry heist or something. He's like. So we were talking about the 4, and this relates to you. It ruined your day. You won't be able to get up at 5
We were
a.m.
talking about circadian rhythm and going to sleep earlier and blue light and melatonin.
Right. Yeah, because it's that, like, for me, I knew it hurt your sleep, but I didn't realize it completely stops
It fucks with
the
your sleep
production
hormone,
of the melatonin. So I like as soon as Apple was like, oh, we do the warm light or whatever before bed, I was like, okay, cool. And I put that on. So I can't sleep without something on in the background. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I know you sleep in the dark, which is better for you. You're getting better sleep than I am.
Love it.
But my insanity and fears and all those voices in my head love to just let me know everything I'm doing wrong and doubt in the quiet dark right before bed. So I need something to distract me to fall asleep.
I don't think you're alone. Like, I think a lot of people need like some either white noise or a podcast.
Yeah.
God, this one would be good. Fuck, if it takes you a long time to fall asleep, 4 hours of us blabbing.
3 hours and 3 minutes, according to this. We just crossed over. Why do you seem upset? I think it's good content.
I know.
This was like us shopping at Costco last week.
Oh my God.
I felt so bad. I thought we were having fun. I mean, I was tired. And wanted to go home.
I know. You were like,
But-
let's do Costco. I'm like, that's a great idea. Like, how about Barhaven? I'm like, well, that's a half hour in the wrong
I wanted
direction.
the fish. And thank you for that, by the way.
But it's fine. And then we're in Costco, and I'm like, okay, usually like it'd take me, I don't know, half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, because my mom gave me a list, and
Yeah.
it's not a Costco I'm familiar with, so I can't quite just like zip through.
I'm the same, but I think because we added both of our lists,
Right.
that they were just stacked,
They were
and we were like
different
we were
things.
trying to hang with each other at
Yeah.
the same time, and we ran into someone I knew who like chatted with us for like 10 minutes, and I felt bad because I want to be polite, but I'm
Right.
like, oh, we're gonna be so long anyway.
It
So
was like 2 hours. And oh, by the way, I got home. This was unclear to me, but apparently they were waiting for that Costco run for like dinner.
oh,
So I get home and they're all like eating these weird odds and ends of things. I'm like, what's for dinner? They're
Like
like, I
bags of
don't know,
expired
Izzy, what's for
marshmallows
dinner?
and
I'm
Halloween
like, oh
candy.
God, I'm so sorry. But anyways, yeah. Hopefully they're not waiting on this Costco run for dinner because it is 9:30.
that would be hilarious.
I
I have two people who are like, I thought we were getting together at 9:30. I'm like, well, I'll text them shortly. Yeah, no, it was good. I'm like, and that's where we got our, you know what? this whole book review was a result of that. So
Yep.
I'm glad we did that.
It's really good. It's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. And I'm going to say this to you guys. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to give my copy away. So if any onesie wants, contact at onemanpodcast.com. Hopefully you're someone in the Ottawa area, but I don't care where you are. I will throw this in a mail or envelope or whatever and send it to you. I'm going to hang on to it until I get confirmation of whether or not I'll be interviewing the author. If we do you want to be a part of that?
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah?
a part of that. I have like one qualm with it.
Okay.
I have a qualm. It's for the very first sentence. Read it again.
Of the thing, we all
Yep.
have the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah. I don't agree with that.
Is it an editing?
No, I just don't agree with that. And it comes from the same book I was talking about earlier. So you want to talk about race. It talks about privilege in general. We do not all have the same 24 hours in a day because some of us have a lot of things that are not like if you take public transit versus driving, you don't have the same 24 hours in a day because that doctor's appointment or whatever
Right.
might take 2 extra hours out of your day than it does for a person who has a car.
But she did address that.
Not
Where she talked about how sometimes you sit with your laptop in the driver's seat while your kid's off at hockey practice or whatever. Like, she's not saying that you're
Yeah,
going to
but
have
that's not
time
part-
alone. That there, because I do address that. She says that time, like, because she talks about driving from place to place, and just because you're not technically at that place working doesn't mean that the time in between is yours. So she actually addresses that some people have a lot of commutes and things like that. So the idea is that if you want to read something or learn a new language, you can do Rosetta Stone while you're on the bus and public transit.
You can.
You're right.
But
Some people
it's
don't have the
not
same free time.
It's really not the same. And like, even that free time, like, okay, she's saying like you're between places. She has her car to sit in and her laptop to use. If you're using public transit and when you're in between places, you're waiting at a bus stop, it's not the same 5 minutes you have. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, in
You're right. I
general,
get it. I don't know. I'm really on the fence with this one because I'm almost like,
she does
the time
address-
you have is the same. You don't have the same. I'm like, listen, if I wanted to learn how to fucking fly a plane, well, regardless of all my white privilege, I still don't have the income and the funds to go learn how to fly a plane. So I see the point that you're making, and I know that not everyone has the same opportunities as everyone else. So depending on what your wants and goals are, but I think that even with public transit and stuff like that, I think that her point of everyone can get up an hour earlier and give the first hour of your day to yourself. Whether if your public transit things, you can still do that.
In general, I agree with pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But I figured I would bring up the things I don't agree with as much just because they are there. And I know she addresses it, but I also feel like when they're addressed, they're almost addressed as like excuses to be brushed off. And I'm like, well, there is a lot of valid, like,
there is,
backing
and
for
I'm with
that.
you. Like if you're somebody who's like, well, I don't have a laptop, so how am I supposed to do what I want to do? I would argue. Now, I'm super empathetic. I came from very poor beginnings, very poor. So I didn't have. So I totally relate to that. But she even brings up a ton of great value to pen and paper.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, there's more value to being to actually
There's
physically writing
always
something
a
down.
way to do it.
Yeah.
I just think it's not as straightforward for everybody.
Well, not semantically, but in terms of literally advantages or not, we do all still have the same 24 hours in a day. That much
We all
is
have
true.
24 hours in a day,
Right.
but they are not the same 24
I think
hours.
what she means by the same is minutes and seconds, and like we're all working with the same time. Now, who can do more? I'll give you. Some people can do way more with that time.
Yes.
I've argued for years that when people say, oh, technology makes our lives easier, I've said, no, it doesn't. I said technology makes tasks easier because it used to be that like, oh, well, I send an email, it takes 2 seconds, the actual sending of it.
Right.
Whereas, back in the day, Jedediah would get on the fucking horse and buggy, and the only thing he had to do that day was ride into wherever he was going, mail that letter, and come home. And if he did that in a day, he was being as productive as he was expected to be.
Yeah.
Whereas now, you can't just be like, well, send an email, that's all I got to do today, right? Same
Oh,
task.
God, no.
If the expectations and the productivity levels were the same, you bet your ass technology has made life easier because, hey, that's all I had to do, and I can get it done in 2 seconds. I can stay home and jerk off or fuck the pigs for the rest of the day. Whatever Jedediah was into, I don't condone. But so yeah, in that regard, like, yes, like some people have it takes me all day to mail the letter. Some people have it takes me 2 seconds. I'll give you that. But in terms of the time, I think I think where her heart is like, some of us will have the exact same day, and one person will argue that like they can't do it, and the other person will find a way to make it happen.
And that point I totally agree with. I think people with comparable situations can be compared. I think one person will find the time, one person won't. And she talks about two people that she knew / knows that, very similar situations. One of them found the time to write something, one of them didn't. And one is no better or worse of a person. They just found the time, made the time. But I think it's hard to compare people who have the job of, it'll take them all day to mail that letter.
Right.
Compared to the people who it won't. But overall, I definitely agree. Everybody can find some time.
Yeah.
Even that.
I think you can. I think that the point that she makes about the cake, doling out the cake, it's a choice to give yourself that first piece.
Yes.
So, and I think that, and again, I'm not trying to be the antithesis of what you're saying where I'm always contrarian, but I think that there are a lot of people who go, well, here's the thing. I've known a lot of people who have made the excuses their reason for never doing anything.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that their excuse isn't valid in terms of like there isn't legitimacy to it, but there's a ton of people in this world who come from very difficult beginnings and have made the decision that I'm not going to let the excuses be the reason why I don't, because there's a lot of people in this world who go, oh, you got a great excuse. And they'll even enable you to not do anything because they're going, well, you know, you've got that excuse. Of course. How could you possibly do something?
Yeah.
And then there's the people who go, I'm not going to let that excuse define me. Like, yeah, it happened. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility what I do with that. I always use this as an example is that like when we talk about people who are like the cancel culture or anyone who's just angry and yelling and screaming saying, I have a disadvantage and you have all the advantages. I always say that whenever you look at the most successful people in the world, forget gender, race, whatever, no one has ever led a TED talk or something and said, I was successful. I got to the top by blaming everybody else and complaining about all the advantages that everyone else had and all this. Nobody is ever. So again, if you're that person who blames and it's not your fault and you're a victim and all that shit, I'm not saying that there's no legitimacy. Your feelings are valid, but just know that no successful achiever achieved because they just sat around blaming everybody else and blaming everything they didn't have and sitting on that. So,
no. And just by the way, I'm not saying me. I have every opportunity to go to bed earlier and get up earlier. I'm very lucky that way. I'm just
braggart.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm just saying in general, like for the tone of the book.
Yeah. Oh, she sounds like. Listen, I'm not shitting on her, but everything I listen to her book, I'm like, sounds amazing. Like it wasn't even until today, late in the book, because she references her husband many times as a support system for her. It wasn't until late in the book that we found out like what he does. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. Do you know what I mean? Like there's definitely, and then here's the thing too, but it's also, I guess it's also I think devil's advocate way of looking at it too. Like part of us, there's something somewhere in our brain that's trying to look at her going, well, she can do it because she's got this going for her. Do you know what I mean? Not even intentionally, but there's just that part that going like, I feel like I can't do it. And that part that looks for, well, of course she can do it because she's got a car or her husband's, giving her opportunities.
And I'd say that I have that habit, not necessarily to use as an excuse for myself, but just in general as a way of looking at things for equal opportunities, for points of privilege, just that kind of thing. And as much as I agree with most of the things in this book, and I think I have every opportunity to do the things she's talking about in this book, it screams to me written from a place of privilege.
Okay. That makes sense.
It doesn't make any of it unvalid.
I don't disagree with that. Now,
it just screams like I can think of like many demographics of people who would read this book and go, oh, sweetie, like there's just so much more to this.
Yes. Again, I don't necessarily disagree because as soon as you like a point of privilege, I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people could benefit from what she's like. Again, like you don't look at her life, you don't transpose her life, but at the same time too, part of me goes, maybe that's the excuse people would need to not try it. Well, I can't do it because I don't have these. It's like, but there's a lot you can do in the book and stuff like that.
And she does address that. And she does say, like, it's not a one size fits all.
I'll have to mess her I go, I'm going to be your ally.
Oh my God. No. And that's the
Izzy's
thing.
Izzy's coming at you.
It's
just so you're prepared.
Thing with like the posting things on social media because of your job. I'm not saying that you shouldn't post things on social media. I'm just saying also
there's a flip side to everything.
There is a flip side to everything. And if I were to try and be critical of this book, I would say that for sure. And she does address it a bit, saying, like you said, like the 5 minutes in between things.
Yeah.
But again,
and she even says that's not your time. Like there's no way.
It's not the same. And the time inside your car with your laptop is not the same as like the 20 minutes you might have to sit at a bus stop. As a student, I've done that too, right? Where like literally if one bus doesn't come, you can be standing outside, not able to do anything for an hour straight. And it's extremely frustrating because I'm like, well, I just came from campus where I could have been studying. And I'm standing here instead I'm going to go home and study. But I just spent this hour of my day standing here waiting for the bus because I don't have a car.
Well, I have the kind of brain where I'm like, okay, so let me put myself in that situation. Like, what would I do? Like, let's say I'm stuck for an hour waiting for a bus. I don't have a laptop. And my first thing my brain did was like, well, you can like say like you want to learn a language, so you can like listen to Rosetta Stone. Well, it's like, let's say this person also doesn't have an iPhone and earbuds and all. Like let's take away all of the privileges, the advantages, the luxuries is really the word I'm looking for.
Sure.
And
Or just
then I'm like, well, but I'm
like,
like, yeah, but that's like, if they don't have that, what can you do? Well, if you don't have that, maybe one of your goals is like, I want to make enough money to be able to have those things so that I can make use of this transit time. What could you do just standing in a butt? Like, that's where my brain is going. So, and I think that probably that's the mentality that she's trying to channel, is that whatever situation you're in, your brain's an interesting tool that if you ask it a question, it's going to try to answer it. And as long as you ask it empowering questions like that, right? And I think, to only talk about myself, is I know there was times where I was looking for the excuse rather than the advantage.
I think that's more human nature than the other way around. And again, I'm not saying that these excuses apply to me. I honestly think I can use most of what she wrote. I agree with it. I think I'm definitely in a position to go to bed earlier and get up earlier and do the thing. Like, I can't apply any of this shit. It was written by a woman. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, I think it's great. The only thing I would say is that it is definitely written from a place of privilege. Like, just talking about being able to cut out sugar from your diet entirely. You know how fucking expensive that is?
No, I haven't cut it out.
I say with an iced coffee, marshmallows, Halloween candy, and Coca-Cola in front of my face.
I had black coffee and water. No justice.
No, just things like that like were mentioned so casually in the book. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, that's, you know what I mean? And so, again, and I feel like it's, well, read the book. Don't make excuses. I'm not making excuses for myself, and I'm not trying to make excuses on behalf of anybody else. I'm just saying I don't think it's necessarily as straightforward as it's presented in the book for everybody.
Right. No, and I think it's honestly, it's fair to give the pros and cons. I think the pros of the books, there's a lot of tools for people looking for tools. There's a lot of tools in here that you can use. There's a lot of tools. And honestly, there's a lot of tools in this book that I have heard elsewhere. So I'm not suggesting that they were lifted from that, but of course there's a lot of great tools that have been out there available for all of us. It
feels very well researched and applied to a real life context. I love it.
Absolutely. The flip side is that, I mean, part of me is going like, well, who doesn't have the laptop, but they're picking up this book? Part of me even thinks that, like, if they're in a position, you know what they could do on their fucking 2 hours wait is read the fucking book and then bitch about how am I supposed to use my laptop on the bus. That would be hilarious, right? And potentially applicable. Read the book on the bus and then you can do stuff. Anyways, I think it's a fair criticism is that there may be the odd person. I'm 50-50 on the flip side, whereas I'm like, I do agree that yes, not everyone's going to be able to, like, well, if you don't like this, drive to the bakery out of town or whatever. There was a story about a woman who didn't want to make a blackberry pie. I thought it had a happy ending. It didn't. I thought it was going to be like, oh, she decided.
That made me laugh so hard.
Basically, it was like this little, there's one of her drives, because she does a lot of driving her kids here, driving kids there, whatever. She actually has one kid, sorry. But driving someone here, driving someone there. And it's like, but one of the rewards in this task is like halfway, to it. There's a bakery that has amazing stuff, but the woman who writes it, runs it as a crotchety old crone or whatever. So it's worth dealing with her shit to get the good stuff. And then she tells an anecdote where it's like she walks in one day and found her in a particularly chatty mood, where she just got off the phone with someone who was like, hey, I'd love to get a blackberry pie there. She's like, what about blackberry pie? And she's like, well, whenever you happen to make some, I'd be happy to pick one. She's like, just, we don't make it. Hung up on the person, the customer or whatever.
Like,
and then she walks in and she's like, blackberry pie. Can you believe it? This person wants blackberry pie. You know what? They want blackberry pie. I can't fucking believe this person wants that. And she's like, well, I didn't argue with her, but in my head, I'm thinking, well, that person clearly wants blackberry pie. Like, da-da-da. And then it's just like, and then it just doesn't go anywhere. I'm sure that story had a point, but my brain was so hung up on like, why are you telling me about that? And never.
The point was, and it's one of the things I wanted to bring up about the book that I really liked, is the point is, everybody has all these to-do lists and bucket lists and things that they have to do that they hold themselves accountable for. But you should also make a list of things that you just don't want to do.
Right.
Ever. And this woman was just not going to make a blackberry pie. And you know what? For her life, that had value. She's just not going to do it. And I love that, because there's so many things that we're like expected to do either in general or by a certain age or at a certain like milestone or whatever. And if you know already about yourself that there are things like that you just don't want to do, like, say it to yourself say it to everyone around you so they stop asking and just don't do it. Like, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Like, don't hold yourself accountable to things that you don't even want to do.
You know what's really funny? I feel like one of the things on her list was like, if we're reviewing her book at the end of a podcast that's potentially incredibly polarizing. So if she like listens to this podcast,
oh my God,
to see like, do I want to do their podcast? She listens to 2 hours of like fucking two whiteys talking about everybody else's plight from our privileged positions. I want to just get like a fucking, like a chain around my neck, just as privileged. You know, like do like the P word for whiteys. Just be like, what up, priv? You know what I mean? Thanks for doing this, Iz.
Thanks for having me.
Did you have fun?
I did.
It's been long. It's one of the longest episodes I've done in a very long time. If not the longest episode ever.
It's possible. But it's been a while. We need to catch up and talk about very intense things.
And anybody who disagrees with Isabel, please send.
Oh my God.
Anyone who has anything to say, contact at onemanpodcast.com. Guys, we're getting closer to 200. It's coming. I have only 3 more episodes after this to get myself canceled before 200 comes out. But thanks for listening, onesies. Please check out Trapped in a Trailer with Tiff on Podbean. BPZ Talks, that's Big Papa Zach Talks on Podbean. Follow and like at Regina Bianca Music. You want anyone to follow you?
No.
Okay. Guys, Izzy was here. Thank you so much for being here. I will chat with you again soon.
Bye.